Hello and welcome to the Life and Fight of a podcast. My name is Jake Cross from Empire Grappling and President of UK Fighting Championships. I'm joined by my co-host Simon Price.
Hi guys, I'm a head coach and owner at High BJJ. Run the Grapplers Academy as well on YouTube, and we're joined today by Leigh Nicholson. He's an announced at Leeds radio presenter. Tell us a bit about yourself, Leigh.
Thanks for having me on, first of all, guys. It breaks up the day nicely. I think we can all say we've got a fair bit of time on our hands at the minute. So I've been involved in radio for a long time, since 1998. That's when I first got into radio as a presenter. I was actually working overseas at the time. I went to live over in Malta, believe it or not. I'd had enough of England, too cold. Get me to the Mediterranean. That's where I was, get some sun on my back for a while. And that's where it all started, really. I was DJing in a club, and a guy just came up to me one night and said, I really like your voice. Do you want to come and do a radio check for us? And that was it. So first job on radio as an 80s radio presenter. And believe it or not, my DJ name at the time was rather embarrassingly DJ Garfield.
Right. Okay. What? Who gave you that name, or was it yourself? How did that come about?
And to be fair, it was a group of lads that gave me the nickname. I'm from a town called Garforth in Leeds. And let's just say it was something that happened in a field in Garforth, and Garfield came about. What it was that happened in the field, we don't know each other that well just yet.
maybe by the end of this we'll get it out of you. That 1998, I know me and Simon are the same age, so we weren't even out of primary school. So what age were you then when you decided to ship off to Malta?
I was 18, just coming up 18. So it was I had a trade behind me, but I've always been a DJ. My dad was a DJ before me as well, bless him. And I was just sort of bitten by the bug, really. And I had this trade behind me, but I was always, there was something there that was like, I love playing music. I love sort of entertaining, and why not give it a go? And if it works, fantastic. And if it doesn't, then at least I've got a trade behind me. By trade, I'm an engineer. I was a printing engineer, so I used to install printing presses for a living all over the place. But I decided to just go and give it a go, and I became an entertainment rep overseas and a DJ, and then the kind of presenting and everything else sort of came alongside it. And then next thing I knew, I'd been there sort of, on and off for 10 years, really, living overseas. So one of the best things that I ever did. My little girl was born out there as well. Me and my wife, we'd not been together that long. We moved out there together, and it was quite something. Something I advise anyone to do, really. If anybody's sort of ever thinking, what's it like on the other side of the pond? Should I move overseas? Don't think about it too much. If you've got the opportunity, just give it a go. And be one of those people who can say, I tried it and perhaps it didn't work, or I did, and look what I gained from it,
That's fascinating. So, like you said that you were an 80s DJ. Was that always like the genre that you were sort of DJing in, or was there sort of different bits?
To be honest, when I was DJing in the bars and the clubs and everything, I'm not doing so much now. But I played everywhere. So I held residencies playing anything from funky house to tech house to I do, because I was working on the radio as well. I used to do a lot of guest appearances. So you'd play whatever genre you of the venue that you were in. So I held a residency at a rock club for nearly 2 years. I was playing Metallica and Rage Against the Machine and Pantera, and just going absolutely crazy. And then like a few nights later, I'll be doing a live broadcast from a Latino salsa venue. So
wow,
we play all sorts, but on the music, on the radio, it was, because that was my first ever show. It was just like, look, we've got a gap in the programming. We've identified that 80s as an area that we've not really touched on the station. Do you fancy giving it a go? And being a young presenter with my first ever gig, I was like, you could ask me to sit up there and play back-to-back tunes from the movies for all I care, just to be on air. And that's what I was. And then it kind of progressed from there, and eventually onto radio in the UK, and sport radio, commercial radio.
Wow.
Tried to turn my hand to everything, really.
What would you say would be your sort of more favourite sort of radio slot to be on then? Sort of like sports, the commercial, like any preference?
I was lucky enough when we moved back to England, which was back in 2010. I got a job with the official radio station for Leeds United Football Club, which was called Radio Yorkshire at the time, or Yorkshire Radio. And I got offered the drive time show on there. So for me, a young presenter, being given a drive time show, and working for Leeds, we were based opposite the East Stand at Ellen Road. So we had guests that were always coming over, legends from the club, like people like Eddie Gray, who's just an absolute legend at Leeds United, who'd just come walking into the office. And, for me, as a super Leeds United fan, just seeing this legend walk in, and then like another week, it might be another player, and then somebody else from the club, and it was like, oh my God. But yeah, drive time for me, absolutely. I think if you can help to bring people down a little bit when they've had one of those days at work, just provide a little bit of light relief. I think that's what radio is. I think that's coming. It's more prominent now, I think, with everything that's going on. People have renewed their relationships with radio a little bit more, and which is good for me, because obviously I'm still involved in radio now, and it's just a real valuable source of information right now, making people feel like they're not alone.
Yeah.
Of course. You touched on Malta when you was 18. Was there a reason why you picked Malta to start with?
Do you know, there wasn't. To be honest with you, after my parents actually divorced when I was about 16, 17. So while all that was going on, I was quite unsettled. So I didn't really have much of a focus, much direction really. And I was just reading a paper one Saturday morning, and this advert was in there, and it was for beach party organisers wanted in Malta as an entertainment rep. And I just thought, you know what, I've got to give that a go. So yeah, I applied, went for an interview in Headingley, and there was me, a kid from Bradford called Chris, and a girl called Cheryl from Doncaster, and all three of us got jobs and moved out there at the same time. So as an 18-year-old repping in the Mediterranean, it was it was fun.
Can't argue with that age, can you?
Again, some of those stories are probably best told over a pint now, boys. You know what I mean?
I'm sure we can organise that at UKFC. So, apart from Malta, any other countries that you've done the career in, that you've lived in, anything like that?
I lived in Belgium for a few months. I lived out there with an aunt for a while, just outside Ghent, in a place called Overijse. Stayed there for a while. I travelled a bit. I've been quite lucky. The engineering before I went overseas, that took me to a few places. Took me to the States twice, which was unbelievable. Out to Philadelphia, which was awesome, and a fair bit around Europe. But I've lived elsewhere in the UK. I lived down in Maidstone, down in Kent for a bit. That wasn't really my cup of tea, though. Yeah.
Southerners won't be if you're a northern guy, not at all.
Yeah.
No. When you're walking into a pub, and every single time you walk in down south and you order a pint, you go, "Well, you're not from around here, are you, mate?" You're like, "Yeah, won't give it away, pal." Although I did actually go down when we were out in Maidstone with my ex-partner's brother. He's actually he does the Brazilian stick and knife fighting. He does that.
Yeah,
essentially, he's to quite high level as well. A guy called Carl Savage, and he says, right, we're going to go out tonight, and we're going to basically try and blag the fact that you are Chris Moyles, walking around Kent, right, in all these different bars and clubs and that, and trying to get in. And I would say we had about a 60% success rate going into these places. Oh, wow. Get in the VIP section. This is Chris Miles from Radio 1. All I had to do was just act fat and put on a Yorkshire accent, which, let's be honest, I've got that nailed. So, yeah, that was
before the days of Google, so they could Google on the phone.
Exactly, because they didn't have access to it right quick then. So yeah, I mean, Maidstone was cool, but not really my cup of tea. I DJ'd down there for a little while. But it was like, the Icon and, you get the Icon and Mustang Sally clubs kind of bolted onto one another.
Yeah.
And it was Icon. They used to call it Pycon because it was full of pikeys. That's what they used to say. Yeah, I saw some adventures on that dance floor, let me tell you.
So obviously you mentioned drive time is that's the window that you love doing. But what's your sort of favorite genre of music? Is it the Metallicas of the world? Is it the 80s music? What do you, when a tune comes on, you like, this is my sort of tune? What when you put on yourself, what is it?
Do you know, I go through phases, I think. I think when you've played so many different styles of music, and when you just love music in general, your style becomes quite eclectic, and you appreciate good music. So, like Metallica, I absolutely adore. Nothing Else Matters, although it's really slow and more acoustic than their other stuff. It's probably my favourite track of all time.
Nothing Else Matters apart from Metallica, then.
Yeah, I'd say it threw me that one then.
I knew what he meant, but a twist.
Yeah.
Great tune. Anything else?
So that track is that's probably going to be my funeral song. Is Nothing Else Matters. But then if I go into dance music, at the moment I'm listening to DJs called the Stanton Warriors, which is real kind of almost breakbeat and a little bit of garage kind of sound to it. But then I'm quite happy to listen to hip hop or R&B. When it was sunny outside, I went through, all we were playing was soul, Northern Soul and Motown. So, yeah, quite eclectic. That part of the job, the cage fighting, the announcing, I really enjoyed listening to the different walkout songs and what tracks fighters are going to try and use to get into what kind of mindset. Are they going to try and focus on the crowd? Is that what they want to do? Do they want a sing-along kind of song? Somebody who walks out to like Sweet Caroline, for example.
Yeah.
Or somebody who just comes out to the, like Feed Them to the Lions, or Mama Said Knock You Out. A little bit cliche, but, it intrigues me to see how fighters will try and use that
So
music.
what's been your sort of favourite walkout song then that you've heard, or what your most memorable one that you've had?
First time I heard "Feed Them to the Lions," that impressed me. I was like, well, okay then. I think anybody who uses a real big anthemic rock track is not going to go far wrong. But something that's not too mainstream, like Back in Black or something like that, AC/DC. When somebody rocks out with some like Rage Against the Machine or some Pantera or Slipknot or something just totally left field, I'm like, yeah. I like that.
What, Simon, when you fought, what did you? Also, I think there's only maybe 2 times you got to use the music, because obviously Takedown didn't use it. Was it the Takedown Grand Prix and Fight Icon you got to use it? What music did you come out to?
Yeah, so Fight Icon, I used No More Eating by Plan B, which at the time was sort of like it was on my training playlist, so it helped me get into that mindset. And then for Takedown, I used Tyler, the Creator. Might have been Goblins, or it was like his first major single. Right. The one where he sort of like talked about Bruno Mars like flying into a building or something.
The only time I got to use a song was on BCFC, which was round the corner from the Guildhall. Technically Evoke Lava Ignite, where we did it last June. So 8 years ago, I used Living Colour, Cult of Personality, which was a CM Punk wrestling song. But I just enjoyed the song anyway. And I was like, I'm coming out to that. And I even said, I was second fight of the night, and I even said to the runners, that song don't come on, I'm not coming out, because the DJ just mess up sometimes. And I was waiting for like 10 seconds. I'm like, it's not coming on, guys. I'm going back in the back. And I was like, right, I'll go out now.
Do you know, I've got two kids. My daughter's 11 and my little boy's 9. And my little boy's just starting to get into his wrestling now.
WWE or NCAA?
The WWE.
Yeah.
So he's really starting to get into it. So like, I'll just be working away because I'm working from home at the minute, and like some music will fire up anyway, from upstairs. And it'd be him putting on Motorhead at the game, Triple H's song. And I'm like, yes, boy, now we're talking. But then he follows it up with like John Cena's, and I'm like, not sure about that, kid.
No, yeah.
Last Grapple Fest, they used the Shawn Michaels theme song as well, actually. Coming out to that, and I was like, yeah.
Now we're talking. The thing is, you can't go back too far, can you? Because if you start to use things like Hulk Hogan's theme tune, it's a bit cheesy that nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah.
Back then it was a bit, when I was sort of first, when wrestling was sort of first really came out, and it was about, or when I got into it anyway, it was all Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, Earthquake, and all these fighters, and to see him now getting into that, it's pretty cool, and the size of the show is now anyway.
It's good that you touch on like the old school Hulk Hogan, because it's "I'm a real American." That's sort of the thing it is now. But in the early 2000s, when he came back, he used a Jimi Hendrix song. I can't remember the words. "Chopping down the edge of my hand" is one of the verses in it. But I think that suited him more than the "I'm a real American." But they want to give into the USA chants, don't they?
Well, he kind of didn't. He try and he sort of rebranded, didn't he, as Hollywood Hulk Hogan? Was that?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So there is some good tunes. There isn't, like they've got there's Metalingus by Alter Bridge. That's Edge's tune. That's a phenomenal tune. Like they say, the games, Motorhead. I think he on Friday he came out to that song last Friday, so it might have been him watching a bit of that.
It might have been.
A lot of sense.
Might well have been. All I know is his newfound interest in wrestling is not working out well for his sister, because he's practicing all these moves. I just see him, he's standing up like this on the top turnbuckle, which is actually my sofa, body slamming a bless her. Like,
wait till he gets 2 cans of lager out and starts crashing them together.
Amazing.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't know.
I'm buzzing that he's into it, because I like the new generation that are getting into it, because they can watch so much of an archive, which is just phenomenal history. Like when you watched it, the Attitude Era, and even some of it now, it's kind of more PG than it was 20 odd years ago. But some of the storylines are cool, and it keeps, especially in lockdown, you can catch up. So much to watch.
I find it pretty crazy. Like even looking at it now, and you know, the BT Sport advert comes on. Ric Flair.
Yeah, the rugby one.
Yeah, and like Ric Flair, what is he now? About 140, and he's still doing it. You know what I mean? He's still got his swagger, and you're like, oh, Ric Flair.
He is. Is it? Don't you use these lines on your WhatsApp, Simon?
Yeah, I think so. The styling, profiling, limousine riding.
That's the one. Yeah. Nobody does it like Rick.
Not at all.
It's the only thing.
Yeah, Fanatics advert, didn't he, as well? He did a leg lock advert for BJ.
For BJ Fanatics. It's the only thing my dad ever like. My dad says, "You still watching that wrestling?" And I'm like, yeah. He went, "What's Ric Flair up to these days?" And I'm like, "He's retired, Dad. His daughter's doing it now. His daughter's like world champion. Like he just like lives off her now." We'll move off the wrestling, because it's that's more my forte. So you started off the radio 1998. It's more it was one of them like right place, right time, but you enjoyed to do it, and then it sort of flustered into this great career. At what stage did you realise, right, this is my career, I enjoy doing this, I can't see myself doing anything else?
I think it really kind of sunk in when we actually came back to England. You're almost like you're living in another world when you're overseas anyway. I mean, you are naturally disconnected, you know, being a few thousand miles away. So when the job was confirmed in England and I came back and started it, that was when it really kind of hit home. And I was like, right, when you're broadcasting in the UK, you know, you're getting to put together your own content, and the other content that you're bringing in is of the quality that it was at the time. That was when it really kind of got me, and that was the first time I really felt part of a truly professional organisation. And looking at the guys that were working there now, you know, they've all gone on to do very, very well. So, like the head of news is now the head of LUTV at Leeds United. You know, the guy that was running the breakfast show, he's now a lecturer and still doing regular podcasts. And he's a really talented guy. And other guys that have gone on to do journalism down in London. And the guy that was running the station, a guy called Ben, he's now the breakfast presenter for the radio station where I work now, which is Minster FM in York, in North Yorkshire. So he's there, and now programme controller. He's working at BBC Radio Leeds. So it was a real good footing. And when you've got that behind you, it fills you with confidence, because it's one of those jobs where you kind of need your ego stroking a little bit from time to time. You know, you need to be spoon-fed information, because you're trying to concentrate on. I know it's just talk. People just say, "Oh, it must be easy just talking into a microphone," but when you've got 1,000,001 things that's going on at any one time, and but that was a real, for me, that was a bit of a kind of watershed moment. That was like, yeah, I absolutely love this, and I can see myself being involved in media for the long term.
So you mentioned about so many things going on. I presume that when you've got the headset on, you got producers and everyone talking into your ear like 10 seconds till adverts, or is it not like that? How does it work?
No, you're on your own. I mean, I've done, drive time shows, again, both overseas and in the UK. So if you've got a partner in there in the studio with you, that's great. I always enjoyed it because you get to bounce off somebody. I'm sure you two have found it doing the podcast as well. If you're doing it on your own, sometimes you can start, if you're dealing with somebody who's a bit of a closed book, it's a little bit difficult,
Yeah.
Whereas someone like me, I just jam away.
Which we love.
So,
Yeah.
there you go. When you've got somebody else in the studio, that's cool. But generally, the only person really that you can hear, unless you're doing like an outside broadcast or something like that. So I did things where I went to race courses in the region. Where was it? Doncaster Racecourse, I think it was, a big festival that was going on. And I was doing the drive time show live from there. So I've got an ISDN kit there at the racecourse, mic'd up with my headset and microphone, and then I've got somebody in the studio driving the desk. So I'm working to their cues. So that's the only time when you're working to something like that. Same at Ellen Road with Leeds. I don't tend to have a headset then. I did in the early days, but it just becomes a bit of a distraction, to be honest with you. All you can hear is people like that in your ear. Sometimes you just want to check it out. But yeah, generally it's you that's doing it yourself, so you're just trying to keep an eye on the timings. Excuse me. Make sure your timings are right. If you've got to get into the news at the top of the hour, you can't be late for things like that. Ad breaks and phone calls and weather updates and travel updates, and yeah, so there's quite a bit going on at any one time, really.
Do you have any like memorable moments then from your drive time show where you've had someone like call in and it's gone a bit like, oh, I've got to recover this now, what's happening?
A few. I had one in Malta on drive time. The station was called XFM, and we used to get, whenever celebrities came over to Malta, it was really quite easy to get hold of them. So, not like it is in England trying to get somebody on air, because you always knew somebody that worked at maybe the hotel where they were staying or something like that.
Only a small island, really, and it's like takes 2 hours to go drive around or something like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's only something like 26 mile long, something like that. It's crazy.
The channel that, the English.
Yeah, it is really small, really, really small. Everybody knows everybody there. It was cool. So we had Robin Gibb, who obviously a member of the Bee Gees, and a chap who used to be a radio presenter called Mike Reed. He used to be on Radio 1 many, many years ago. And he's one of those guys who, when I was growing up listening to radio, he was just a voice. You just knew it. You knew who Mike Reed was. And then obviously Robin Gibb is like a global sort of megastar, really. So we ran a competition where somebody could ask Robin a question, any question they wanted to. They had to email it in, and then we put them live on air with Robin Gibb in the studio, and they could ask this question to this global megastar. There was this old dear called Margaret who won this competition with this really good question. I can't remember what it won now, but it was a good question to put to him. So we phoned her up, got her on air, and introduced her to Robin. I said, right, okay, Margaret, now's your chance. It's what you've all been waiting for. You can ask your question. And she changed her mind completely, and she didn't ask the question that she'd won the competition with. Instead, she decided to ask Robin Gibb how he was feeling after his brother had died, right? Which was only a few weeks prior, maybe a couple of months, something like that. And his face just changed like that. And when you sat with a guy like this, I mean, you've got to bear in mind the Bee Gees are absolute phenomenon. And there's footage of them walking off talk shows, like live talk shows in the US, because they didn't like the questioning and stuff. And this woman's just gone, so how do you feel now that your brother's died? How was that make you feel? I'm thinking, yeah, that's not the kind of question you really want to ask. I could feel my toes going like that underneath the table. Anyway, Robin Gibb just turned around and he went, I don't really think I want to answer that question. Do you mind moving on? And like, we just had to whip the faders down like that and get her off air dead quick. And like, yeah, that was one of those moments. I didn't enjoy that.
That's not cool. That like,
no, it was not cool at all.
People trying to change the question just to be a bit quirky, but that's quite a low question to ask. It was a bit of a dark one, to be honest with you. Don't get me wrong, I've had callers come on air and they've just won a competition, and they'll be like, congratulations, you've just won
£5,000 holiday. You're going blah blah blah. Well done. You've done this. You've done that. And they go, oh fucking hell! And you're like, oh, we're on the radio. Hit the bleep button. Yeah, there's been a fair few of those. Let me tell you.
So just to add on to what Simon says, I was literally going to ask something similar. So I'll add a two-way question. That could be answered to the second part. But first part, what's the best thing you've had to sort of talk about? So it could have been announcing something, breaking news, talking to someone. What's your best version of that? I mean, what's the worst time you've thought, right, wow, what's happened here? It could have been what you've just said, or it could be something different.
Wow. I think being on air when 9/11, that was pretty tough. That was really hard because you kind of go into whenever there's a major kind of event, you as a station, you almost go into something what's called orbit mode, which is like obituary mode. So basically, your output and your programming has to be more down key. So your music's all kind of slower, and you don't do any fun features or anything like that. That was a really, really difficult time to be on air. Whenever there was terrorist attacks and you're on air, that's a really difficult thing to sort of deal with, because you're there for a reason. You're a source of information, and you're there to try and entertain. And if you're a light-hearted presenter like me, who's more of a personality, where a show is more personality-led, you find that a little bit tricky. Tricky to do. So yeah, anything like that, tricky. I was on air when Gary Speed was a legendary Leeds United player, Welsh manager. When Gary Speed,
right?
Sorry,
Did you manager at Bolton at the time, or Wales?
Yeah, he was a Welsh national team manager. Yeah, and I was actually in the car with my wife. Excuse me, when that news broke, and I had to go to work and do drive time that day. That was really hard. It was really, really hard. I think when you're genuinely invested in something, which most football fans are with their teams, and I mean, I'm fortunate enough to work for them, but when you're that invested and something like that happens, it's really hard, especially when nobody saw it coming. And that was the thing with Gary Speed as well. It was, and the thing is, I think nobody knows still to this day, apart from Gary, why that happened. And if it was a mental health issue, then I suppose we could say that a light has been shone on it more so now, and the importance of addressing mental health and being aware of issues. I think there's far much more of it now than there was when Gary died.
Yeah, I remember like it was yesterday as well, how crazy that was, because he, like I say, he was still in the managing career. It wasn't like he was retired and doing nothing, and that can play with your head. He was still actively busy, and I think that's what got people a lot more. And it's the same with what's his name from the singer with the shaving head. I forgot his name. Linkin Park. Sorry, yeah, my mind.
Oh yeah.
It was in my head.
Yeah, Chester Bennington.
Yeah, how busy he was, but then and that's the thing. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to understand why, because you're not in their headspace, and if they're not talking to anyone, which is what it sort of leads to, that is difficult. And obviously, like you say, it's close to football. That is crazy. Maybe more on the lighter note, what's been a nice thing to sort of break or talk about or anything like that, but that's sort of come out of nowhere.
I think. Oh, dear me. It's always nice doing competitions, competition winners, when it was a big prize, something that's going to change somebody's life a little bit. Campaigns that we put on air are good. I mean, obviously, I'm not so much on the mic in the studio as much now, but the guys that I work with up at Minster, we put together a campaign where we were looking to raise a ton of tins for food banks, for local food banks.
Nice.
So we wanted the target was a ton initially, and we'd done that within a couple of days. It was crazy. And then the station just turned into like a loading depot. We're like driving up to Aldi, you know what I mean, and getting into work, and people are just pulling up all the way throughout the day, vans and lorries, and even kids that had just turned up with a carrier bag with just 2 tins in it, and we'd get pictures. In the end, I forget what we actually raised now, but we absolutely smashed the target, and we got to a point where the food banks actually said to us, can't fit any more in. We've got, you know, we've done great. So, you know, that and hearing the stories that come off the back of that, that's one of the reasons why I love being involved in radio so much, because you're sat on a platform that can be used for good, for real good, and people's relationship, as I said, with the local radio stations. If you're fortunate enough to have a local radio station that really is sort of truly local and does look out for its community and wider community, then yeah, it's a real fun thing to be a part of, and something that's it's very, very rewarding as well.
You mentioned obviously you were a star from the Bee Gees and that question before, but again, similar question that I've just asked. So, who's been your most favourite guest that you've interviewed? Like you've looked forward to it, it's gone great, and it's been fantastic. And then, who's someone that you've looked forward to and it's died a death? What can you name a few if you want?
Oh, let me think now. I didn't get to interview him on air, but I met Justin Timberlake. That was pretty cool. That was actually in Castleford, believe it or not. Have you heard of Cas Vegas? There's a ski slope there called Escape, and I used to be the events and marketing coordinator there. And Justin Timberlake turned up one day. He was touring in the UK, and he just turned up, went out to the slope, doing some snowboarding. And word sort of started to get out that he was there, and yeah, we ended up looking after him for the day, and that got on local news, which was crazy. will.i.am, I met him when I was DJing over in Malta. That was really cool. Him and what was her name, Fergie, and
was it Black Eyed Peas?
Yeah, they were performing at an event called the Isle of MTV Festival in Malta. And the manager had come and told me that some of the Black Eyed Peas were going to be coming in, and they were going to be in the VIP room, but not to announce it on the mic because we didn't want to get, you know, sort of inundated. And then partway through the night, just this kind of like just a group sort of moved through the crowd in this club, and will.i.am was in the middle of it, and it was his security guys, and they brought him up to the DJ booth so he could ask for a song, and he asked for this particular track and this particular remix, which I had, and then I sort of played this track. You know, about 10-15 minutes later, and he came back up to the DJ booth, and he found out the front of the DJ booth. I just popped over the top, and he just went, "Hey man, I gotta tell you, your mixing is fresh. It's fresh." And I was like, "Okay, I'll take that. I will definitely take that." I think on air there's been so many, you know, sports personalities and things like that which have been out of this world. I think the worst one, the one that was like blood out of a stone. Do you remember a Swedish DJ called Eric Pritz?
Yeah,
yeah.
Simon probably will.
So this guy Eric Pritz, he was massive at the time, absolutely massive. He just released a track called Piano, and it was spelled PJANOO. That was how it. So, and this track was massive. It was all over in the clubs at the time. But we got him on air, and he sat there in the studio. And it was like trying to interview Mars Bar. Just got nothing, absolutely nothing. Every single answer, just one word answers. And then we said, "So Eric, let's talk about piano. Let's talk about this track. You know, it's #1 in the club charts. It's going absolutely everywhere. It's huge. Now tell us, it's spelt a little bit differently. Tell us why it's spelt that way. You know, there's some kind of meaning to it." And as sort of deadpan as you like, he just started and went, "Well, I was on a train after a gig one night and wrote the song and get to the station and needed to get off the train and I just saved the song in a hurry and that's how it came." I was like, "Oh, okay, that's it." All he'd done, it took the typo on the name of the song, and that was it. And that was the end of the interview. I was like, "Fucking hell, mate, you can come back again." Yeah, it wasn't great, that one. There you go.
So, apart from the DJing, you touched about the snowboarding where you worked as well. What other areas have you worked in apart from, obviously, yeah, you mentioned the printing before and also the DJ. What other areas have you worked in? What sort of roles have you had in your career?
The events and marketing, that was when I first came back from living overseas over at Escape. So from Escape and doing the events, I then had a pub. I got my own pub. which I ran with my missus for a while, which is one of those things. If you've not ever done it, I'd recommend doing it. Do it once.
Grew up in pubs all my life, and I know she's had about 6, so I know the feeling. It's great.
Oh yeah,
Before the smoking ban came in.
Do you know what? It's kind of like it's one of those where you live your life in a bit of a goldfish bowl. So if you can get past that, having a pub, then yeah, you're all right. But yeah, I had a pub for a while, which was really cool. And then I kind of came out of things a little bit when Leeds United got taken over by a company called GFH Capital. And they closed down the radio station, part of the company. They sort of pulled all the media spend back. So we all sort of lost our jobs, and we needed to find something quickly because I was due to get married within a few months as well. So my old man at the time was working for a recruitment company dealing in oil and gas recruitment. And he was like, "Oh, come and do this for me. You've got the gift of the gab. You'll be able to do it." Blah blah blah. And I think I did it for about 2.5 years, and it was the most miserable 2.5 years of my life. It was horrendous. I absolutely hated it.
He's back. Simon, I don't know if you noticed, Simon went off. He's paused there.
Yeah, I've got 2 of them on my screen now.
Yeah, I have. He texted me saying, "I don't know what's happened. I've gone off," and I was like, "Dude, I didn't even realise."
Literally, Zoom just disappeared, and I was like, "What's happened? Where have I gone?"
Well, I don't. The other one should go off in a couple of minutes, but
Yeah.
Simon, Leigh was basically saying that he owned a pub for about 2.5 years. Did you just say?
We had the pub for about 2.5 years, something.
Go on, carry on with that. Sorry, apologies.
And then I ended up dropping into this world of recruitment for a little while, just to kind of bridge a little gap. And it was awful. It was just absolutely horrendous. And there's people that I'm sure absolutely love the job working in that particular industry, but for me, it's one of those where I think recruiters have got a bit of a bad reputation. So as soon as you got in touch with somebody and say, "Oh, it's so-and-so from so-and-so recruitment company," they're like, "Phone down."
I've done that.
Yeah. So, I don't cope well with having the phone put down on me, unfortunately. I've got a bit of a short temper, I'll be honest with you. All right, is it?
Is that after they've hung up as well?
Yeah.
No, you expect them to hang up, and then you go, "Well, fuck you then." It's like, "I've not hung up yet." It's like, "Well, now." So you mentioned
so yeah, I did that for a little while, and then that was it. I came out of there, and I needed to get back into radio and get back into media. So I got back involved with a group called the Links Group, which is based down in Doncaster. I was working down there, and I was covering a number of radio stations sort of down in that area, working in a media sales position, which was great fun. And then from there, I got headhunted by Minster FM, which is where I am now. So from sort of DJing and media work, I had a little bit of a break away from it, but you soon go back to what you know, don't you? And thankfully, being involved in the media side, that's kind of where that led back in, or opened the door, should I say, to the MMA world, which is where we find ourselves now.
Yeah, it's just you touched on the pub. What years did you have the pub then?
Oh, I had the pub. We came back from Malta for a brief break in 2003. So it'd been 2002 to 2004, about there.
So a few years before the smoking ban.
Oh, yeah.
Mine had a pub when the smoking ban came in. And
right.
It was like day and night how it changed, how it vastly changed everything. I think the last massive sporting event was the World Cup in 2006. I remember being a part of that. I was glass clipped and I was 16 at the time. And then literally a couple months later, it had completely gone. So you probably got out of it at the right time. Is the pub that you own or you ran, is that still going now? Is it still, or do you keep an eye on it? Do you ever still go in?
Do you know what it is? And it's funny you should say that. Maybe about 8 weeks ago, I ended up over there on something completely different. And I had the kids with me, and we drove past it, and I said, "Oh, look, this used to be Daddy's pub." And we went in and actually took a few pictures and showed the kids around, and it's totally changed, but it's still going.
What sort of pub was it? Just a normal pub? Was it food or?
No, it wasn't food. It was predominantly a wet pub. It was a drinkers pub. It was on a main. So it was in the town centre. So when we got busy, we got busy. We had to have security on the doors because we were packed, and if we had to stop people coming in, and we had a couple of bouncers in there, and pool tables, dartboards, big screens, flat screens. It wasn't a massive pub, but it was one of those. Whenever you went in, you knew that you were going to know somebody that was there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and I got to DJ obviously in my own.
Yeah,
my
that's
own
great.
pub, which is great.
What was it called and where was it?
It was called the Lamplighter,
Oh,
and it was in Castleford.
nice.
Yeah, just in the town centre. It was good fun. I don't know if I'd do it again. I've got to be honest. Maybe
Not now.
no, unless you've got a venue that is just hammering out food, good high quality food. I just don't see how you can make a good living out of it.
No.
There's a lot of pubs, because my Nana still speaks to a lot of people that she was involved in. She's retired now a long time ago, where even through times like now and lockdown or whatever, or even pre that, the breweries are just putting the either lease or rent up or charging more for the beers, when you can go, that people like me and you go to Asda and get a crate and sit at home, and it's a lot cheaper. Where if they were smarter about it, they could just turn around and go, right, the lease is away from the pubs, we're going to subsidise the Sky TV or Virgin or whatever. Let's get the punters back in. Let's cheapen the beer a little bit. And people be more, especially not right now in lockdown, but people would want to do it more, but they seem to be biting their own nose off.
They do, and the breweries, they're tying people into these deals where you've got to buy all your stock from them as well. And like you say, with these inflated prices as well, if you could buy out, which every landlord would love to be able to do, you can save yourself a little bit of money as well. But buying yourself out of an agreement like that, you've got to have some cash behind you.
Yeah,
I think some of it as well is like the generations changing into it. So there's a lot less sort of people in the 20s and 30s drinking now, or going out to drink. I think what a lot of people are noticing. Yeah,
do you know what? It's funny actually talking about pubs. I can almost feel a tear come into my eye. It's been that long since I've been in one. I'm missing it. I'm a bit of a social butterfly, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, up at our local, the kids the younger ones that do go in there, they tend to be a bit more mature, I think, than I was at their age. You know what I mean? And, they don't have any problems coming over. These are sort of lads that are 24, 25, 26-year-old that are coming over and rocking up. If I'm already in there, for example, they'll come over and they'll pitch up, and I'll be there with my wife and my kids maybe will be there, and they're quite happy to just come over and have an natter, even though there's a massive age gap between us. Yeah, I'm missing it. I am missing it. I am missing being in the pub, I'll be honest.
It is a crazy time, like you say, because I guess the things that you miss are the smallest things, and I feel like, especially for me, it is having the option to go and see family. It's the option to go and see friends when it's not really at the back of your mind that it's a want to do. It's just normal, common courtesy, that sort of thing. That's what I think I miss, but I am dying for a night out now. I think the stress of it makes you just want to, I just want to get wasted with a group of friends.
Tell you what, can you imagine what it's going to be like when the pubs do reopen? It's going to be like New Year's Eve for 2 fucking weeks. It's going to be crazy, man. I'm booking a straight week off work, mate.
It's a crazy thing, isn't it? Right, because people are furloughed or people are working from home. The amount of time, so the last 2 months, no one's used a holiday, really. They'll have 2 months saved up for holidays, and if you've not had a holiday when you're supposed to, like I was supposed to be in Florida last month, I now want a holiday. Everyone's either going to be going away, getting pissed, or booking holidays. So this time where businesses are losing money because no one's working or people are getting furloughed, people are going to be booking holidays anyway and not working again.
I know. It's crazy.
Need a holiday from a lockdown, which is the craziest thought you'd ever think in life.
But I can totally relate to it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you and me both. It's coming to something, isn't it, where your highlight of the day is just a trip out into the back garden, you know what I mean?
Putting the bins out.
Yeah.
I like the social life on a Thursday night. Right, guys.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think, to be honest with you, the last 2 weeks, it's almost felt like we've been shielded from it all a little bit. It felt a degree of normality because of the weather. So you were able to get out in the garden and, fire up the barbecue and have a couple of beers, and the kids were just playing in the garden. And so you almost forget about what's going on because you would have been out in your garden anyway because of, you didn't feel like you were locked down. But when it's when the rain clouds appear and it's a bit cold and it's grey and drizzly, and kids are like, "What can we do, Dad?" And you're like, "I don't know." No.
I ran out of ideas weeks ago.
No, honestly. Well, to be fair, they've got the Xbox set, so my little lad is all about Fortnite, and he's got his sister into it now, believe it or not, which is great. I put my dartboard up in the back room, which
Yes.
I'm loving my darts at the minute. Absolutely loving my darts, and my wife is as well. She's getting right into it. So last few nights we've just been in there, put some music on, and just throwing some darts. And I never thought I'd be just in my little man cave playing darts with a wife. Stranger things are on.
That's something we could do. Busy. I've got a dartboard. We can set up Zoom like they're doing with the PDC at the minute, and just set up a camera, and we can just play each other. I'm not great. I've not played in a long time. I just put it up because I've got the space of a pool table, so I can play pool whenever I want. So
I'm missing playing pool. I do like to play pool.
It's one of the things that relaxes me, chills me out. And now I've got my own house, and the reason I chose this house was a garage for all my event stuff, and I wanted not an extra room, but a bigger sort of dining area where I could put a dining table and a pool table. And that was always on my checklist, so I've got it. I don't use it as much as I thought I would, especially in lockdown, but it's nice to have something I can just go, right, I'm just going to play even on my own, shoot a few balls, and then that relaxes me a little bit.
Yeah, I got when we first went into lockdown, probably about 2 weeks in, and I thought, right, I'm getting my turntables back out, and I'm gonna start having a bit of a play, and they're actually here on my table, and there's like stuff piled up. I used them for about a week, and Al asked, "Well, it's great to see you playing again." And then after a few days, she was like, "Will you turn that shit off, please?" No. All right then.
Back to that, have you seen with the versus battles that have been going on with the Instagram?
Oh no,
songwriters and
oh yeah.
Like, have you any battles that you've seen where you've been like, I'm not missing that, or that was great, or even that was hilarious? Like, is it Babyface and Teddy Riley?
Yeah, Babyface, Teddy Riley. To be honest, there's been a few. To be honest with you, don't you think at the minute the social media has actually been quite a fun thing to be around?
I've got to stay off it, if I'm honest.
I enjoyed it.
I'm not normally too active on their Twitter, and Facebook, Insta. But just over the last sort of few weeks, it's been quite nice that the levels of creativity that people have been showing, and not just that, but just messages of support. And yeah, it's been quite a nice thing to be around. Where speaking to somebody who works directly with a football club, from time to time, it can be a pretty nasty place to be. If you're in the firing line. But luckily enough, when I first started working for Leeds, and working for the radio station that was for Leeds, we got told first off, because of the guy who was running the club at the time, who's not a very well liked man called Ken Bates.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so obviously, he wasn't a popular figure amongst fans, and so we were considered to be like the mouthpiece for Ken Bates. So we just ended up getting grief on a daily basis. So, some of them you can take. Some people say, no, you talk this and you talk that, and you're full of this and you're full of that. You're fine, because you over time you build up a bit of a shield to that, and you're like, well, at the end of the day, I just don't have to reply. I just don't have to engage with you. It's as simple as that. But then when people are coming out and they're saying, they're wishing ill on your family, and I hope this happens to you and this happens to you, then you're like, jog on, dickhead. You know what I mean? You don't need that.
So, probably around 15, 20 minutes ago now, you touched on moving into the MMA side, the UK MMA, and doing being the master of ceremonies for that, the MC for that. How did that start? So the first show, I think, was early 2016 with Almighty. Is that right?
It was, yeah. It was 2nd of April, 2016.
So, obviously, Almighty is a Yorkshire show. What was the connection there? Or was it they were looking for MC, someone knew you? How did it work?
I struck up a friendship when I had the pub in Castleford,
right,
with Steve Mayer, who was one of the founders of Almighty. He's taken a bit of a step back now, I think. Excuse me. And so me and Steve were very, very good friends for a lot of years. And then obviously I moved overseas, and we kind of kept in contact, but not as much as we probably should do. And anyway, we'd come back, and I'd sort of moved back over to where I am now. And Steve just dropped me a line one day and just said, "Look, I'm thinking about putting on an MMA show because he'd already had Almighty Fightwear running for a while.
Yeah.
So, he had a fair bit of apparel that was out there. He was doing sort of pretty good. But he said, I want to go into promoting. And I'm going to put a show on at Leeds Town Hall. Do you fancy being our MC?" And I was like, well, I've never done it before. So, I've sort of seen, obviously, on TV how these guys work and how they operate. Said, if you can sort of guide me along, then yeah, I'll do it, definitely. So, I did a bit of research, a bit of digging, and we went down for that very first show. And it was, it was Steve who got me into it. And it didn't disappoint, because that show was a phenomenal little show for its first one. And it obviously introduced me to you guys as well. So I think it was it Steve Nightingale that was there?
Yeah, so the first one, I think we were in Steve, because like say 2nd of April 2016, our first show was 7th of May 2016, so 5 weeks later. I think Steve might have had a couple of fighters on the Almighty show, seeing you, and I was like, decent, we'll have you on ours. And I think that's where sort of, if you can spotlight yourself, even if you're an unknown commodity, and people see you and go, decent, and that creates more roles all over, and then it's not what you know, it's who you know, and then it sort of goes from there. Was you an MMA fan before that?
Yeah. I first got into MMA when we were living overseas. So it was quite early, actually, when we moved overseas. Well, this was a time where I sort of really started getting into it, when it was Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, that kind of time. That was my sort of real introduction to it. And it blew me away. And we just used to go down to our local shop, and we were hiring DVDs every sort of other night, and just ploughing through these DVDs. At the time, my favourite fighter at the time was Vitor Belfort. It was when he sort of first really kind of came to the front, and you saw that hand speed for the first time. You're like, whoa! And it was just
back in his prime. Scary, man.
In his prime, he was just a beast, an absolute beast. So yeah, that's kind of when we first started getting into it, really.
Simon, obviously you remember as well, probably a similar time like when Leigh got into it. I think when Vitor first started, he was sort of like the new generation. You sort of had the I won't say one-dimensional, but one set background before that, and then Vitor comes in and like this multi-dimensional mixed martial artist.
Yeah, a bit more well-rounded fighters to sort of come through and sort of head started that next generation that came through. With the sort of ferocity, the ground game as well as the striking game, and just looking like a different athlete as well. Like he didn't he'd walk the walk, but he also sort of looked the part as well. Whereas you have some fighters where you sort of going in there going, I'm not sure about them. Are they in the right place?
Yeah.
What's been your highlight from watching as a fan, Leigh, about maybe a certain fight?
Do you know, I can go back. I thought you might be asking me something like this. I thought you might be. From the very first Almighty show, which was my first real introduction to live MMA. I've not been up close and personal before. And we watched, there was a bout between a chap called Krzysztof Adamczyk and Aidan Lee.
Aidan Lee's very good.
He's a very good fighter. He's got this real kind of long, rangey kind of style, and you don't know where he's coming from. And he picked Krzysztof apart with sort of 3 or 4 knees early doors, and he just cut his face to pieces. And Krzysztof was just wearing like just a blood mask, and the ref kind of, a couple of times just sort of, called time and just sort of, are you okay? Are you going to continue? I was like, I'm fine. And he was just blood pissing out of it. That was my first sort of real introduction to an absolute war. That one really stood out. That was a really good fight. From your particular show, from the UKFC shows, Well, I don't know why, but one that sticks out for me was Corey Fry and Steph Murray, and it was in October. Year was it? I think.
Yes, October. Yes. Yeah. He lost the title in December, Corey, didn't he? So yeah, October. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
It just really stood out for me that. I mean, I really like Corey as a fighter. I think he is a very good fighter. Some of the names on the UKFC show from the start, from the very, very start to where we are now, some of those names that have kept on appearing, so the likes of the Fry brothers and Connor Hitchens, and seeing how they've not only how they've changed physically, but how their skill sets have changed since we first saw them. And I think an absolute case in point for me has got to be Karolina Wojcik.
I was going to say that.
Oh my God, she is just an absolute. Isn't she? She's a beast. And now you got Dakota Decheva, who made a debut 2 shows ago now.
I think it was this time last year she made a debut, and then she was on Almighty against Levi?
Yeah, she fought on Almighty, and then she came back and she fought Shauna Bannon, didn't she?
Yes.
And she looks like an absolute beast as well. But yeah, Karolina, she's a different animal completely. Yeah, there's no limit for what she can go on to achieve, I don't think.
Yeah, Ultimate Fan. UKFC won May 2007, 2017. So Carolina had literally been training 6, 7, 8 months at this point. She had her first competition in the February that year, if I remember rightly. So 2016, I'm getting mixed up my dates now. So February 2016, she did Sub North in Stockport, which is one of my events. Seeing it, she won gold in that, did very well. And then she did UKFC, first MMA debut. She got submitted by Corey McKenna, who's now one of the standouts in Cage Warriors. So that was a first fight, her first loss. And then she won 9 in a row, won the UKFC belt, turned pro, won loads there, became world champion in Africa and for EFC. And she wants that fight back with Corey McKenna. She really wants it back.
Sure.
Yeah, which is quite cool. But they seem to be missing each other a lot. Now she signed to Cage Warriors, and we don't know what's next with Carolina. But yeah, I completely agree with the sort of length of time, and I guess it's cool for us to be a part of that. We was all at the first event in 2016, and you get to see Carolina, Connor, the Fry brothers, and now the next generation really, who's came in sort of the middle part of that, like the Liam McCrackens, the Marlon Jones. What's, apart from the best sort of fight, who's been someone that you've always looked forward to fight? Not for UKFC, could be anyone. What sort of you thought, right, I know this is going to be a great fight to sit down and watch?
I always got excited from the first time I saw him. It was on UKFC as well. Oh, was it UKFC? First time I saw him might have actually been on Almighty, but then you had him on UKFC as well, and sadly suffered a bad leg break last year. But Danny Williams,
yes,
Danny Williams he's a scary fighter when he's on it, and he moved, didn't he, from his gym in Pichelli to Liverpool.
Yeah, for Hammer.
Yeah, with Sean and the guys down at Hammer, and you could see the change just from that sort of first fight camp, with Hammer. He looks a different fighter. He's an absolute unit. He's Danny. I get excited watching him. But there's a few. I mean, what's your name? Aftab Javed as well. Yeah, he's an exciting fighter. You never really kind of know what you're going to get there, and that's the one thing that I enjoy about UKFC and Almighty. And I did the GTFP as well, the Golden Ticket.
In Wolves.
Yeah, did a couple down there. I was actually there. Have you seen the footage of Samuel Ilnicki knocking out Solomon Rogers, the head kick, where he literally just goes completely straight and just, you see a tooth fly off in the air,
like a Terrietin with Barboza, sort of like that.
Exactly like that. The guy just stiffens up and straight in half. I'll send you the link. I was there for that night as well. It was one of the most brutal knockouts I've ever seen. But the good thing that I like about Almighty and about UK Fighting Championship, and I think the thing that stands you out from other shows, is the matchmaking. In in the early days, potentially, I think a couple of shows could be found a little bit guilty. Well, if there's so-and-so drops out, there's not a lot you can do about it. You know, unfortunately, you're at the mercy of the fighters.
Yeah.
But on the whole, the quality of the matchmaking is what makes these two shows such a pleasure to be a part of, because you get some quality fights, some quality fights.
The fights that stick out for me, and obviously you're the part of them, was like Marlon Jones and James Williams for the bantamweight title, the 5-round war.
Yeah.
The Mullen and Hitchens fight.
Say again.
Callum Mullen and Hitchens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a great fight. Hitchens and no, not Hitchens. Fry and Sideshow Bob.
Oh yeah.
UFC 2 for yes, October. You was there for that one, Simon.
Yeah.
With the suplex. There's so many standouts, and I've not been to an Almighty yet, but it's on my to-do list because I do speak to Ray a lot. We do like a UFC sort of poll thing where we have fighters and we get points and stuff like that. So it is my aim to get down, especially because you're there, Lee. I've enjoyed promoting them, and it's nice as the MC. It's I guess the point for you is you announce them and you get to sit down and you get to watch front row. You can't have a better seat in the house. What's that experience like?
Do you know, when I first started doing it, it was a little bit kind of, it's a little bit, you feel a bit like a fish out of water because being that close to something like MMA, I think the longer you're involved in it, the more you get to see just how much of a lifestyle it is. And it is literally, this is the way you live your life. You know, they dedicate their lives to the sport and how serious they are. And, you know, when I'm sitting next to the officials like Kath Hall and you know, and Neil stepping up into the cage to referee, some of the people that you're around, it's an exciting thing to be a part of. But once you, there was one guy recently, it was the last UKFC show that I did, and I can't remember who it was now, but I'd just done his introduction, and then at the end of the fight, he actually won the fight, and he made a point of coming over to me, and he said, that introduction got me proper fired up. I was proper, you know, I was ready to go. And that's nice. I like to hear that. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to go all Bruce Buffer and, you know, right in somebody's face and you know, going that far. But it's nice when you can see that they're absolutely pumped up, they're fired up, and then yeah, you got to sit down cage side and make sure I put one of the fight cards over my drink, because obviously the blood we do get covered. The amount, oh yeah, honestly, and this is something I had to learn from Kath. You know what I mean? I've got open drinks on the table and she'd be like, she'd just cover it up and you'll see. And then, you know, partway through the night, I'll look down and there were just blood spatters all along the top of the thing. And like, I've had it where I've got home and it's all up my shirt up here, and like the missus, you know, she's taking pictures.
Have you been in a fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something to be a part of, and something that I even like my missus and a couple of her friends, they came down to the first show and they absolutely loved it, because when you get it on a night where the atmosphere is something, and you get it in the right venues as well. The Guildhall is such a brilliant venue for MMA shows. It really, really is. And the O2 Academy in Leeds is an amazing venue. But yeah, it was obviously a shame what's happened with the Guildhall, but fingers crossed, eh?
Yeah, fingers crossed that gets sorted, and that's politics for you. That's Preston Council sticking the law in, and then you've got a millionaire who's shafted people with money, and I completely get Preston City Council stance, but they're literally just letting it rot. They're not doing anything with it, and then by the time they reopen it, they're going to have to do so much repair work because they're not letting anyone in and out, especially in this lockdown as well. It's just irritating because there's been talks of certain people maybe looking to buy it, but if they do buy it, they've got to still do events for basically cost or losses for the council, which that's not a business. You've got to make some money somewhere. But we'll see. Hopefully maybe at the end of this year, Preston's like, lockdown's killed us in money. We need to do something. Let's kill it on.
Yeah, and you know, it's a venue that's been there for so long as well, and it's seen so many some big events and
snooker's there.
Yeah, it's huge. I put it on. It's on a par with like the Barbican in York, in North Yorkshire. So you know, it's a historic venue. The snooker events that's there, but you know, Almighty are running MMA shows in there now. You know, like one week we were watching, oh God, what's his name? Him from SAS, that my missus fancies.
Middleton.
That's the one. Oh, in fact, no getting away from him, mate.
Gotta say though, mate, your beard looks better on you than his does.
I'll take that.
Touching a point on Middleton, he does jiu-jitsu and stuff, and he's involved in the, what's it called now, Simon? You might know the.
I didn't even know he trained, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, he does. He's connected with like Martin Stapleton out of Full Contact and SBG in Rochdale. He's connected with that somehow. I'll try and get some details and file them over.
Yeah, right.
But he's actively at MMA and jiu-jitsu, which is.
Right.
You mentioned obviously Calf Hall and Neil Hall and stuff, and it sort of hit me more in December when you wasn't there, because obviously you was your back? That was right. Yeah,
I had a bulged disc in my L4, L5 lumbar vertebra, which basically crippled me for. I was off work for nearly 12 weeks.
So that was Leeds, Almighty, UKFC, radio, everything.
Absolutely everything. Yeah. I basically spent sort of 6 weeks, 8 weeks in a tramadol-induced haze on my sofa. It had started. My back had started to kind of play up a little bit, and it sort of spasmed and went one particular day, and it sort of got better over about 4 or 5 days, and I thought, okay, we're fine. And I dropped my kids off at school one morning, and I came back to get ready for work. Stepped in through my front door, and I coughed. Just a cough, and it felt like somebody stabbed me in the back and left the knife in there, and that was it. I just couldn't move. So now I'm on a healthy regime of stretches every morning when I get up, and just trying to kind of keep it at bay, really. But that really hit me quite hard. That, and looking back at that now, having all of that time at home on my own, I'm back there now, essentially. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's kind of set me up a little bit for it.
You can move around the house pain-free anyway.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'll be honest with you. You know, we're three lads sat here. I struggled with it. I really struggled with it. And I think when you're on that amount of painkillers and stuff like that, you just can't move and you can't do anything for yourself. It takes you to a bit of a dark place. You know, I'm just pleased that I had, you know, friends and family that I could talk to, because when you're just inside with just your own head, and sometimes it can be a bit of a strange old place to be.
Was there anything particular, aren't you?
Yeah, sorry, what was that, Simon?
Plus, was there anything particular that you did to sort of keep going then during that time?
To be honest with you, it was more of because I could have just slept all day. I could have just done nothing whatsoever. But trying to just sort of stretch a little bit, just making sure that I picked up a phone every now and again and just text somebody, even if I just couldn't be asked, talking to people, making a point of it. It was difficult for me to know what to do, to be honest. I changed some of the drugs that they'd given me at some point, because they weren't sitting well with me either. They put me on diazepam for ages, and I was like, guys, I'm not a nice person to be around when I'm taking this. We've got to change it, you know what I mean? And I was just snapping at my wife and my kids, and obviously there's a frustration there because you can't do what you want to be able to do. So naturally there's going to be a bit of, you know, you're going to be a bit snappy, but it got to a point where it was like, no, someone's got to change it. Wow. So yeah, thankfully, you know, a bit of physio and a bit of patience, and we're kind of almost back to normal now. I've still got sort of problems with it, but yeah, having to miss all of those shows, you know, not just the social element of it, but the financial impact of it as well, missing out on all of that. And then and Leeds, you know, not being able to go and just, you know, start. It's not every week you get, well, it is for me now, you get to stand in front of 35,000 people and, you know, have a bit of a shout and a carry on, and not to be able to do that because you just can't walk.
Yeah, well, I guess that's another worry as well, because you did message us, and the point I was going to make is that you've got a family sort of that you see every sort of event, Almighty UKFC, that you see Calf, Neil, the judges, refs, etc. That's something you miss. And then the other worry is, like, because you're technically going to be replaced for an event and then going to stick with that person, because you did message us and we were never going to go away from you. It's just you weren't well. It was one of them things, and we did miss you having there. And the message we got from you was like you were genuinely gutted, which we knew you were. Was like, this guy genuinely cares that he's not here. Not obviously money is one thing and stuff like that, but it's part of you. It's something. If you're not there, it's different.
Yeah, and a few people sort of say that. It hurts, obviously, missing an event, and you do worry about being replaced because, you know, at the end of the day, I'm fortunate to be doing what I'm doing, and when you're in a position to be able to do what I do, you don't want to give it up easily because you've worked bloody hard to get to where you are. And then obviously, when I said to you guys that I couldn't do that, and you brought somebody in, like I never really, it didn't cross my mind, you know, the thought of being replaced. With Leeds, that was a big one for me. That was like, because the chap that was there before me, he was the chap who filled in whilst I was away. So, and he loves doing the job, and quite rightly he should as well. It's an amazing thing to do. But you know, I'd be lying if I said that thought didn't cross your mind. It's like, oh my God, what if I don't have me back? And then Almighty, I've not been able to do an Almighty show for a little while now because the shows have fallen on Leeds match days. So I've not been able to do them. So they've been bringing in their own sort of compares. And I think Almighty's going through a little bit of a change at the moment. So, you know, just sort of ride that. And, you know, the guys from Almighty know where I am. And I love the team down there. And I'm always happy to jump on board for Almighty. They're branching out. The shows in Leeds, shows in York. And I think they're looking at doing potentially something down in the Midlands.
Nice.
When we're able to get back together, possibly. So yeah, it's something that I absolutely adore doing. And when I first started, it seemed like I felt a little bit out of place because maybe that I didn't feel like I knew enough about MMA to be there. But then I quickly sort of realised you don't have to be an absolute expert. Yeah. It's something you show a love, you show an enjoyment and interest, and then you naturally become invested in it. And that's the way I like to sort of get my knowledge, if you know what I mean.
Of course, there's not many, and this is not part of me on, but there's not many things in this game that I've not done. One main thing is an MMA ref. I've done jiu-jitsu ref in Soul Simon, but I've never done MCing at a big event. I did it on my own. I did an invitational. I think it was 3 years ago, but I only did that because I had a limited budget. It wasn't a money-making thing. It was just a tick off a bucket list sort of thing. And I did it, and I suited up for it, and it was in front of like 200 people in like a working men's club, one jiu-jitsu mat, and I enjoyed it. But it's not as straightforward as you think because you've got to time things, you've got to try and get them pumped, and it was a bit easy because in front of 200 people in a sort of a smaller room, but it must be difficult, like you say. You've got 35,000 at Leeds, but then you've got a very, they're up for football. They know what they're there for. You know that your cues. You know you announce players. You're going to get raws. Whereas in MMA, especially at the beginning of the night when it's pretty empty. And are you ready? How do you work the difference between MMA and football?
You always want to try and feed off your crowd. That's always something that I've done. And like I say, it is a bit more challenging with MMA because you don't have a static crowd all night because obviously fans are coming in, you know, periodically throughout the night, you know, to support their own fighter. So if you end up with a crowd that if you've just got that atmosphere and you just know you've got just a good show and it's buzzing and you can feel the atmosphere prickling. And if a fighter's sold well and they've brought a fair few fans with them, I've got to. I know I've already name-checked her, but I'll name-check Dakota DeChaver again because the fans that she brings along are just... they put some real noise in, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just a case of what I tend to find at the start of a night is you almost try not to listen to the crowd too much. So you're just there to give an overview, welcome people there, tell people what's coming up. You know, let's just get into it to start with. Let's just get in and let things naturally start to build. And then the atmosphere tends to build. And obviously it depends on the kind of fights that you have. If you have your first 3 fights are absolutely fantastic, it kind of sets you up a little bit there. If you get your first fight that's done in, you know, it's a guillotine after 8 seconds, you're a bit like, it's no, you know, but sometimes, you know, it happens, you know. But with Leeds United, that's a different ball game altogether, because it's scripted. I've got a running order. I know that I bang on this time. I have a floor manager who's with me, a young lad called Matty Ingham, and he's my link to the main control room, which is actually based in Preston. There's a company called ADI, and they supply all the content for our big screens from Preston, and they do it for a number of clubs in the Championship and in the Premier League too.
Oh, no.
They'll have a person running a game, and they'll run all the content centrally from Preston onto the screen. So he's linked up to my floor manager, and then he'll say, okay, like team news in 10, 9, 8, we'll count down, and then I'll do my first bit of read, and then all the teams come up on the screen, and that's when I'll do those reads. Might have any marketing messages, so, you know, special offers at club shop, events that are coming up, things like that. And it is all really quite structured, but it's quite a unique position to be in at the moment with Leeds, because of the way that things are going for the club, or the way things were going before lockdown. More often than not, you get to Ellen Road and the fans are in a good mood. They're positive. They're happy. They're expectant. They're always expectant. We, as Leeds fans, we don't want much, just everything, which is just who we are, you know. And that's an atmosphere that I can't explain. I just can't tell you what it's like to stand there in front of that many people. And when you say, like, when you're in a crowd and you ask somebody, you know, like, I know it's a bit cliche and a bit cheesy, but to raise the volume, you know, make some noise. You know, when you hear that in a cage fighting arena, it's quite short, sharp. You get it. You do it in front of 35,000 people, man, and the hairs on your arms and your neck are up, and it's just something else. And I actually sit in the dugout as well, so I sit right behind Marcelo Bielsa, the Leeds head coach. So you know, I have to peer around him when we get corners because I can't see, because he's sat right there in front of me. And I'm going to ask him a shift or all.
Just what we're touching on, because I didn't want to be rude with the name. At Middleton, it's Reorg Jiu-Jitsu Foundation. It's part of the Royal Marines.
All right.
It's part of it and stuff. I just wanted to, because I thought I need to at least get that out. That touches on to Leeds, and I've pushed it off as long as possible because it is the main event and what you're part of, and it's what you love. And I've got loads of stuff up on this because, just 1 second, Liam. I'm a bit warm.
Oh. You know what?
You couldn't do that.
There we go.
Guys, this was not set up, by the way. This is on purpose. He didn't.
Sorry, can you see that there?
So there's obviously a rivalry between Manchester United and Leeds, and it's not as big as it was because you're a division below us, and that's not any digging because that's fluctuate with clubs and stuff. And I'm not that sort of fan where I like to dig in more for banter. But I've always, and I'll get a lot of stick from United fans about this, but because they have a hate towards Leeds, which I think is a strong word. But I've always liked to follow Leeds because it was when I was getting it first into football. You had the sort of the great days of the late 90s and the early 2000s, and getting to the Champions League semis. And I love watching them players and the players that you had where they went after, like Rio and stuff like that. One thing I think we should start on, because it's a big thing with lockdown right now, is obviously the Premiership. It's up in the air. What's going to happen? Is it going to be voided? Is it going to be played out? And Liverpool being so many points clear. But you're in this similar position, not as many points clear. It's one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a point between us, yeah.
But you're on before lockdown, you was on a 5-game win streak. You're top of the league. As of right now, as a fan, and maybe independently as well, what do you think should happen?
I think the season should be finished. I think we should play it out. I think it will probably get played out behind closed doors. I think the season has to be finished, but only when it's completely, 1,000,000% safe to do so. And unfortunately, I think that means behind closed doors is going to be the way. I'm not quite. It happened in Sweden where they voided the league. I think it was. They said, right, we're going to null and void, and that's it. And then the backlash from it was incredible. And
the Danish league, the Ajax.
Dutch league. Sorry, yeah. That's right, Dutch league. And so they had to reverse that decision.
Oh, I've not even seen that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that somebody was telling me the other day.
Okay.
So now you've got the French league that have awarded the title to Paris Saint-Germain because they've done it on a PPG basis, which are points per game basis. So they've worked out an average over the course of the season, and then they've said you would probably have earned this many more points, blah blah blah, which is all well and good, but you can guarantee that if that did happen, as you know, as a Leeds fan, so you're awarded promotion on a points per game basis. You will forever be the team who was promoted on a points per game basis.
It'll be an asterisk, won't it?
Excuse me. Yeah, and it's yes, you do want to be promoted, but it would be nice to be able to do it in front of fans and everyone to sort of enjoy that moment together. And from a very selfish point of view, me as well, I wanted to be the one out on the pitch with a microphone, announcing a promotion party, telling people massively in vain, please stay off the pitch at the full-time whistle like anybody's listening. That's from me from a purely selfish point of view. But my kids, this is their second season ticket holders now, and this could be the season centenary year as well for Leeds.
Yeah.
That could go up as champions, and now that might be sort of taken away. And I know there's a much bigger picture, of course. But yeah, for me, it would be finish the season and probably do it behind closed doors, but only when it's completely safe.
See, like with the thing of that though, do you think if they did do it behind closed doors and during while the lockdown's on, do you think fans would not congregate at each other's houses? And if say Leeds won the league and got promoted and Liverpool win the league, do you not think fans are going to congregate around the stadiums?
Yeah.
And then,
do you know what? I think you're absolutely right, Simon. And I've had this conversation with a couple of people. If social distancing measures aren't relaxed before the start of a football season again, that's going to be a massive problem, and something that's going to be far more difficult to police because at least if fans are going to the game, you have 30,000 fans inside a stadium, right?
Yeah.
If you do it behind closed doors, you will probably have 70,000 fans that are trying to make their way to Ellen Road for essentially a free promotion party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then the same at Anfield as well. And yeah, there's a massive, massive danger of something like that happening, and I don't know how they could police that. You try and telling a Leeds fan to stay away from Ellen Road when the team could potentially be promoted that day. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen at all. So,
obviously, I've done a quick calculation. Based on points per game, you would finish on just above 88, 88.2, depending on how they ratio it. Most likely means that you will go up as champions because I think everyone's played 37 games. They have, yeah. I've got the league here, and you've got the best run at the minute, 5 games in a row. I always try and play devil's advocate because you're at top of the league, so you want to finish it because you don't want the asterisk next to the because there's 2 ways they could do it. They could void the league and put you up as champions, which is still a bit crap, or they could be avoid the league and nothing happens, no champions, no relegation, which would be a horrible pill to swallow after working so hard, and then there'll be legal arguments, TV rights, everything to even sort of after that. So I think the best way to do it, and I think people seem to be thinking about the next season starts in August. The next season will have to be pushed back. The way I see it is just wait until it's done, and then when we're ready to restart a league, just finish that league, and whenever it finishes, then we just go right. We scrap the League Cup and the FA Cup for that year, and then you've got a smaller window to do the next season. And plus, especially with the Premier League clubs in the top tiers, we've got Qatar in 2 years in December. This might actually help put the leagues in position ready for that. Yeah, it could do. And I think when you think about it, there's only 5 or 6 games that's left to play. That's not going to eat that much into next season, and they're already moved the Euros, so I can't really see much of an issue. Look, it's and how many times have we used the word unprecedented in the last God knows how many weeks? But it is. How many times have you used the word unprecedented?
So you've got to try and be as for me, you've got to be as fluid as you possibly can be, because the situation's changing every single day, and we could turn around and say, well, right now this is probably the best solution, or this is the most viable solution. But then a few days later, that probably changes again. Something else comes up that changes the landscape again completely. So it's difficult to try and put any kind of plan in place, isn't it? It really, really is. I think the most important thing is safeguarding the immediate future of the clubs that are not playing the game, so the lower league sides, ensuring that they're actually still in existence by the time we get back, and just making sure that everybody comes back to the game in a fit, healthy way and a safe way at the end of the day, because that's all we want. We don't want it coming back and then suddenly, something else spikes and then you've got to cancel it all again, and let's just do it and do it right.
Yeah, was it this time last year you had Bolton and Bury, which were struggling, and that wasn't even in this situation. So imagine how many clubs are struggling now, especially at lower tiers. And I feel like a lot of the bigger teams and maybe even Championship above, because in my eyes, Championship is sort of the 5th or 6th best league in the world after the sort of the top 5s that they talk about in Europe. It's the most watched. It's so competitive. Like when Rooney's now at Derby, he says this league's harder because it's so gritty. I think these teams at the top should now be thinking, right, without these teams below us, it's going to be a massive financial knock-on effect, because Championship could technically be the bottom tier of English football if something's not done, because there's talks that League One and League Two will then be regionalised if they can't get the right money for it, which will be mental, because we don't do regional till maybe 7 or 8 tiers down now, which used to be different in the 70s. Could go back to that. But the devil's advocate point I was going to make was, I've got the last 4 years of game 37 and where Leeds was to see if it would change your mind. So this time last year, you were second, just above playoffs.
Oh, it's awful time. Awful time.
Yeah, because obviously it didn't end the way you wanted to end it. I think you ended 4th in the end and didn't get through playoffs. 3rd or 4th.
We got beat in the playoff semi-final by Derby at Ellen Road. We'd gone down to their place and we beat them 1-0. Kamar Roof, with a goal, and then we took them back to Ellen Road and we lost. And Derby celebrated like they just won Champions League. And one of their players took a shit in changing room as well.
Wow!
Like a proper parting shot. Oh, they hate us, and obviously we hate them.
Yeah.
I can't even remember his name now. He was a lad who was captain that got sacked, didn't he? Because he was in the car, pissed.
Oh, I know what you mean. I can't think of his name, but I remember it.
Yeah, Keogh.
Yeah, Richard Keogh.
Richard Keogh.
Yeah.
There's a couple of lads think it might have been him. Well,
so if you're second in the season last year, and obviously you don't know what you know now that you end up dropping and not going up. If they said, right, we're going to points per game, or we're going to cancel the season now, would you have accepted it differently to now being top of the league and champions? Just because it's different. It's your second. It means you just get in the Premier League. It doesn't matter how you just get in there.
Yeah, do you know what? Last year, I'd have just whatever. However, most definitely. I mean, for God's sake, man, they were making a documentary about us at the time. Do you know what I mean?
It's not better than Sunderland, though.
Oh, mate, what better way to set yourself up for a fall than recording a documentary?
And then get relegated again.
It's going to end one or two ways, isn't it? You know what I mean? And sadly, it was crazy. Although that documentary was actually really, really good, and we actually got given a contract to sign from the club to say they could use our faces and all the rest of it in it. With the opening line was, we agreed to pay you the sum of, and I thought, hey, I'm only getting paid to be in a documentary here. But it was like £1. I was like, oh, fuck. All right,
very good.
Yeah, I'm in it a few times actually, which is quite nice. So that was good, sort of watching it with the kids. It's funny because I still get sort of messages from friends and stuff like that watching Sky Sports News, or they'll be watching a game and I'll pop up on TV and they'll like screenshot and send it. Get your fucking ugly mug off my screen, will you? And like kids playing.
It was one of the games last year when I first noticed you won a Leeds match was Leeds versus Villa with a controversial goal when you was in the background behind the manager or the head coach. What was it like to be part of that? So if Simon doesn't know, so was it an Aston Villa injury? Someone went down and then
so there'd been it was a bit of a needle kind of game anyway, and an Aston Villa player had gone down injured, and it was Tyler Roberts had picked up the ball for us, and the ball had kind of been passed to him, and he made almost like he was going to let the ball go out of play because his Villa player was down injured, but he didn't. He put the ball down the line to Mateus Click, and the referee hadn't blown the whistle, so they just kept on playing. And Click cut inside a couple of players and put the ball in the bottom corner and scored. And Villa went absolutely mental.
It was a melee, Simon. It was like a brawl, more or less, wasn't it?
It was incredible. And obviously, because where we are sat on the bench, we're right next to the Villa dugout. So, you got
John Terry,
John Terry, and the rest of his cronies there. And John Terry, he tried to get towards the pitch, and one of the security guys, a guy called Martin Sykes, he's like an ex. This guy's been supporting Leeds for a lot of years. A big guy. He's the guy that goes out and makes sure he walks the referees back in and stuff like that, so make sure nobody can get to him. Anyway, they all started trying to get to the pitch, this big sort of melee. So Martin's jumped up and grabbed a load of people and just sort of dragged them back. And then this other little guy called Rich, this little bald guy, security guy, he's gone up like that and he's put his forearm across John Terry's chest like that, just to kind of move him back. And John Terry grabbed hold of him like that by his tie and his thing, and he went, "Don't touch me, you're just a fucking steward." Right? And to this guy, and this security guy just burst out laughing in his face. I mean, straight in his face as well. And he didn't know where to look, he didn't know what to do. And there's been a few of them, some managers and coaches that come that all they do is whinge and moan and carry on. But some of them are really good fun. But yeah, John Terry were a proper moaning bastard. And then we had to effectively let Marcelo Bielsa ordered the team to let Villa equalise, to let them score, because he didn't want us to be seen to be winning a game in the wrong way. So to make things even, he said, right, let them score. But at the time, we had a Swedish defender called Pontus Jansson for us, who didn't like that idea very much.
Yeah, he tried. He kicked off, didn't he?
Yeah, big time. He tried to. I can't remember who scored it now, but he tried to kick him up in air as they were coming through, and he proper threw his out.
It's only right though. It's like one of them, innit? You play to the whistle. Like you don't play to whatever's going on the pitch. You play to the referee's whistle.
Exactly, it's schoolboy stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that from then, I think that almost might have signified the beginning of the end for Pontus Jansson. Not sort of towing the party line and going against what the manager had ordered him to do.
Oh, really?
Wow.
I remember him not sort of Bielsa like pointing at him saying, why did he try to do that? He wasn't happy at all. And once you have that mindset, it's kind of like, well, he's starting already, and that's where it sort of falls apart. I
mean, it could well have been. There could be a hell of a lot more to the story than that. But yeah, from then it was just seemed a bit difficult, a bit more tough for Pontus.
So let's just start at the beginning of Leeds. So how did you get the role? Obviously, because you said the guy before you filled in when you wasn't well. Obviously, he still wanted to do it. So how did you sort of step in? How did that happen?
The chap that was doing it was actually a radio presenter too. He was working for Heart locally. A chap called Rich Williams, drive time presenter. Very good presenter, a real nice guy actually. And he was doing the job before me, but he wanted to get more into the TV side of things. So an opportunity came up to work with LUTV, and that's what he did. So he moved on to the TV. And then the chap that I used to work with at Yorkshire Radio, I mentioned earlier on, he took over at LUTV. And he just said, look, this has happened. We need a pitch announcer for the season coming up. Do you fancy giving it a go? I was like, do I? Yeah. Just get me in and have a chat. So I went in and had a meeting. They really liked the fact that I was involved in MMA. They liked the fact that I was used to working in a hostile environment. The fact that I'm not intimidated by a crowd. I don't get intimidated by a hulking heavyweight stood next to me that just wants to kick the snot out of the bloke who stood opposite him. I kind of get into my own little zone there, and I know why they're there, and I've got a mutual respect for them. So. It's not quite as overwhelming or overbearing as it was when I first started doing it. So having that experience lent itself to me being able to sort of handle myself on a pitch, because you do get a lot shouted at you from away fans, not as much as you probably think, but you do get the odd pearl of wisdom shouted at you. Shall we say?
No.
Favourite pearl of wisdom that you've sort of caught then, or that is stuck in your memory?
What's that? Sorry, say that again.
Like your favourite little pearl of wisdom that's been thrown at you by an away fan?
Oh, mate.
Or even a home fan.
Yeah, or even a home fan, yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Someone said, you look like Chris Miles.
I've had some of them shout. What was there was a guy that used to be on was it like Coronation Street or something years ago? There was a guy called Fred something or other. Can't remember his name now.
The Butcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fred. I can't remember his surname, but yeah, Fred. He'd have a little bit of stutter.
Yeah. Fred. I can't remember his surname now. But somebody, one of them shouted that at me. And they went, "Hey, fucking hell, lads! Look, it's Fred. So and so." Sorry, cheers, guys. We did have one where
Fred Elliott.
Yeah, there we go. It's Fred Elliott. Rag and bone man. I get that one quite a lot.
I can see
I
it.
don't mind that. In fact,
It's not bad.
we were playing. Tony Mowbray was up at Leeds. He was managing, and Tony Mowbray stood at the side of us. Nice guy. He's sort of fairly friendly. His team's getting beat, as most teams do at Ellen Road. And this guy, there's a pissed guy in the West Stand right behind us. And this guy, he's trying to get a song going, and he kept trying to do it. Now, the West Stand is generally where the kind of more corporate sort of fans sort of sit, or they're slightly older, or, your East Stand is a family, and then you've got the North and South Stands, which are just your absolute madheads. And then the West Stand, they're all quite reserved. So this guy's in there. He's blagged a ticket from somewhere. He's been out on the source beforehand. And he keeps trying to get these songs going, and nobody's having none of it. Nobody's having none. And then he just pipes up, and all I heard from behind me is just some bloke shout, "Mowbray's a meatball. He spits when he talks." I'm like, what? And it was just so random. I just burst out laughing. I was in absolute hysterics. I've never even heard it before. Yeah, some of the fans that we get there, there's a good little bit of banter going, and the Leeds fans certainly know how to dish it out. I'll say that. There's a well-known saying that Leeds fans have been boiling piss since 1919. Just getting under people's skin, and yeah, nobody boils piss like Leeds fans.
What's been some sort of career highlights then with your work with Leeds? Have you got any sort of real pinnacle moments?
Yeah, the centenary game, which was a huge game for us against Birmingham City. So it was a big old celebration. There were we had the big flame boxes out on the pitches. We had a fly past that went over, and a selection of Leeds legends that came, and I introduced every single one of them out onto the pitch and sort of gave a bit of information about them as well. So, captained the team to the last league title, Scotland international, blah blah blah. Ladies and gentlemen, Gordon Strachan, and then he comes out, and, Lucas Radaby, and all these names that have been there that I was watching, when I was on the terraces as a season ticket holder, and some from years way before that, the likes of, as I say, Eddie Gray and Peter Lorimer and Johnny Giles and people like that, and that for me was a real big moment. And we won that game as well. It was Calvin Phillips who scored the goal for us, and he's a local boy as well. He's Mr. Leeds, so for him to get that was a real moment. But we've had moments where, I have fighters out onto the pitch as well, before big fights. So I've interviewed Josh Warrington and Lee Selby before they went at it, and Josh Warrington and Carl Frampton out there before they went at it. That was really good. World kickboxing, Thai kickboxing champion. I can't remember his name. He's a Leeds lad, and another kickboxer. We had both them out on the pitch. The Kaiser Chiefs have had out on the pitch. Just some crazy names. There was a guy who was in. Do you watch Marvel movies at all?
Yeah.
So you've seen Captain Marvel?
Yeah.
Yep. So the Kree baddies, like Jude Law and his little group.
Yeah.
So there's one of them. He's got his hair kind of slicked back and it's quite long. He's got a beard, and he's played by a Norwegian actor called Rune Tempter. He was in like Vikings programs as well. So he's a big Leeds fan, and he came to Ellen Road, and I'd sort of seen him there, and so we shook hands, had a chat, had a picture, and all that. And then he started following me on Twitter. This actor from Captain Marvel, from the Marvel universe. And every now and again, he just keeps getting involved in like little sort of Twitter conversations and stuff. And just after I'd shaved my head, somebody commented on it and said, "Oh, you look like a Viking." And I was like, "Oh," I said, "I'll take that." I said, "But we need to ask the authority." I said, "I dropped Runa a tweet, and I said, 'What do you think? Is it a good look?' And he was like, 'Mate,' he says, 'I have got a part for you.' He said, 'Let's do this.' Marching on together. I'm like, so you're going to get me a film part, are you, Runa? As long as it's alongside Brie Larson, sir. If it's not, I'm not interested." So yeah, things like that are really quite surreal. Just people that are Leeds fans that are sort of fairly well known that might randomly follow you on Twitter. It's pretty bizarre.
Do you still get starstruck with certain players?
Yes, yeah, not so much now, but I did when I was first down there. When you see someone like Pablo Hernandez for the first time.
Where was he before you guys?
Swansea.
Swansea, that was it.
So Pablo, he's something else.
Still player.
He's amazing. I think I get more starstruck with the players that used to play for the club. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Is there anybody that where like if they were to come out now, you'd still be a bit like, shit, they're here?
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I was like that with. In fact, it's really nice that I'm able to talk about him, considering he was the man who put Manchester United out of the FA Cup at Old Trafford. Jermaine Beckford. You love him, don't you? I can tell. So Jermaine, he's
a great player.
He was a great player and an absolute goal machine at Leeds. And
Preston? No.
He's retired now.
Okay.
He went to Preston. He went to Everton. Preston, couple places. So he's retired now. So he's getting into the world of media and punditry and stuff like that. So got to saw more of him at LUTV, and it kind of takes you back how normal these people are. At the end of the day, he's just a young bloke. At the end of the day, and we ended up all going out on the piss into the centre of Leeds. So we're sat there, and there's like Ben Parker, who used to play for us, who was a left back for us, a couple of other guys, and we're all sat in this Wetherspoons. Ben's phone starts going, and he's like, "You're in the wrong fucking pub, mate." And it, like 10, 15 minutes later, Jermaine Beckford just come walking in and just sat down with us, started ordering a load of shots, and that was it. We were just absolutely on it. And then from then, we struck up a bit of a friendship, like so. We have a natter, and yeah, that's really quite bizarre. He was the man who I was watching on TV scoring goals, getting us promoted from League One, and I'm out on the piss with him in a Wetherspoons at centre of Leeds. It's a little bit bizarre.
Who's your favourite player now? You mentioned Pablo Hernandez, which is a great player. Is there anyone else that you highlight? Like I enjoy watching Leeds. I like Patrick Bamford. I think he's a top quality player. Is anyone else?
Jack Harrison, who plays for. He's on loan from Manchester City. He's a left winger. His first touch should be illegal. It's absolutely filthy what he can do with a football. He's a great player, really come into his own this season. Pablo Hernandez, I'd say hands down, is probably my favourite player, a bit of a linchpin. Whenever he plays well, we play well. But people like Stuart Dallas, Northern Ireland international, who's been an ever-present this season. He's up for, I think he'll probably win our Player of the Year. Calvin Phillips, who's proven himself to be one of the best central defensive midfielders, never in Europe, never mind just in England. But I think at the moment, probably Pablo Hernandez, the Spanish magician.
Sweet. I'm just going to share an image that I've got here, and I want you to tell me the first player that comes to mind, so bear with me.
Yeah. Is it going to work? Oh, here we go.
1 second. Get it in.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Suspense. Ooh. Alan Smith.
Mine was Mark Viduka when I first seen it.
Oh, yeah. That kit brings back some serious memories. Olivier Dacour, Dominic Matteo.
So that's a good little segue there, Lee, because that's what I was sort of feeding onto. So let me see if I can Get it up. So this is the infamous
Oh,
Champions League squad from 2001. So this is the home game. So the first game was 0-0, wasn't it, against Valencia? But let's just go through these players that are on the pitch. So you've got, obviously, strike force for that was Alan Smith and Vart Viduka.
yeah.
Your midfield was Eric Bakke, Decor, like you mentioned, Batte, Cools. I think it was Bowyer on that rather than Cool. Was that right? I've got that wrong.
Yeah. Lee Bowyer's down there next to Alan Smith, Harry Kewell.
And then defence, Danny Mills, then Rio Ferdinand, Dominic Matteo, Ian Hart, and then in net for Nigel Martin. Looking back, that's an amazing squad of players. What's your first sort of memory of 2001? Like, what probably the best year you've ever had? What goes through your head?
You know what? It was that they were a young team that nobody was expecting to do well. And I think with any young sports person, if you take that pressure of expectation off them and you say to somebody, go out there and just perform, just enjoy performing. Nobody's expecting you to go out there and work miracles. Just go out there and just express yourself. I think if you say that to any sports person, you're going to see the best of them. And that's what this team had. It had no fear. It was happy to go out and just play and just enjoy playing your football. And when you've got someone like, I mean, Harry Kewell at the time, I mean, he's a wanker now, right? But,
I was going to say, what do you think of Harry Kewell?
Listen, anybody who goes off to play for Galatasaray, I'm sorry, I can't.
After 2000, the Leeds got stabbed,
but Harry Kewell, you know, when he was playing for us, when he was on his game, he was unplayable. And then you know, like David Batty and Olivier Decor that complemented each other so well in the middle there, because David Batty would just like snap you in half if he could, and Decor had that little element of class about him, and Bowyer was just the engine that was back and forth. And, you know, Rio Ferdinand was the most expensive defender in the world, I think, at the time.
Yeah, 30 million we signed him for a year later, maybe.
Yeah, 18 million we signed him for, and then sold him for 30 odd, I think it was.
So back to back, most expensive player.
Yep, absolutely. And then, you know, Mark Viduka and Alan Smith, they were just like Mark Viduka, you know, he was one of the best natural finishers ever. You know, probably one of the laziest strikers that you'd ever see. He didn't need to run about. He just put it on a plate.
But got the job done.
He did.
He's like Berbatov.
Yeah, you're right. And that's, I think that's why that team did so well. They never went out there thinking that they were going to be beat. And I kind of hark back to something that Eddie Gray used to say, and he'd say when you were sat in the dressing room and you look around and you look at the players that you sat next to, you think, we're not getting beat today. There is no way that whoever we're playing that's got a chance. And if you can go into anything with that kind of mindset, you're halfway there, I think.
Of course. So, I'm 99% sure I'm right on this, because I remember when we signed Ferdinand for 30 million. Can you name the player that beat that multi-million-pound record? What the next player was after that?
Ooh, let's see. Oh dear! Now you're testing me.
I'm going to look up after this, so we will speak after this. But I'm pretty confident, because I remember the stories at the time on like Sky Sports News and whatever it was. But if you want me to tell you, I will.
Was it a striker?
No, midfielder.
Right. Okay. It wasn't. Juan Sebastian Veron, was it?
If I'm wrong, I'll be shocked. It might be wrong, but Zinedine Zidane when he went from Juve to Madrid.
Right. Oh, sorry. I thought we meant into the Premier League.
Apologies. But you're probably right about Veron. Apologies. Stick down.
Probably still wrong anyway. Like
something we will look into. Obviously, because I knew you had you on, and I remember that these games, I wanted to study them a little bit. But one thing that I thought was very strange, obviously, manager at the time was David O'Leary, which is sort of like a Marmite with David O'Leary, because he put you in quite a lot of debt, which made a downturn for the next few years after this. One thing I was looking at is you're playing at home when it's 0-0, which is good going into a second leg because you can go for the away goals. But you didn't make any subs in the first leg, and you didn't make any subs in the second leg. when you think you've got to change it up a bit to try and make a counter-attack. Do you remember that? Obviously, it's something that I picked up on straight away, that there's no subs across 2 games. And the only different player between game 1 and game 2 was Lee Bowyer didn't play in the second game.
I think it's probably an example of, when you've got a league campaign that you're trying to play in, because at the time, we were still doing pretty well in the league and other cup competitions as well. So, that maybe the squad are not quite the size that you need. And, I think there's a lot to be said for when you talk to players now and they get accused of being burnt out, for example, under, like, for instance, Marcelo Bielsa. It works them too hard and that they get burnt out towards the end of the season. But players will tell you when they're winning games and when they're playing well, you don't mind. You don't get tired. You just, I'm sure you felt it when you're fighting, Simon. When you're on top in a fight, suddenly you've got that little bit of extra spring in your step, haven't you?
Yeah, you feel one step ahead for the whole thing. There's no sort of back step. There's no getting tired. Yeah, it's you're there to win.
Yeah, exactly. And I think these guys have that as well. And I think when you're performing at the highest level, yeah. Most definitely. I don't agree with the whole burnout thing. Yeah, when you're losing games and it's demoralising, then yeah, maybe you do get tired, and then that maybe the psychological links there as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like I said, if you're getting beat and you tell yourself that you need to do more, and you're not going to recover, you're not sleeping as well, and that's where the sort of burnout comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see a lot of these lads on here. See, they've got the lockdown haircuts already, so they're preempted it.
It's a good one. They're doing what's he called? Top right, is it?
Yes, Ian Hart.
Ian Hart, that's it.
Yeah.
So there's 2, same squad, but there's 2 games which are pivotal in sort of the Leeds career, because that was sort of like the pinnacle after the early 90s, and then it sort of went downhill from there, and the 2 relegations. One thing I've only just noticed, and this isn't, again, it's not a dig or anything, but the last First Division which you won before it became the Premier League was the last major trophy that you won. So I guess that backs onto my questions before. This league now in Centurion year, it means a lot, because it's been 28 years since you've won anything, and then this happened, and it's similar to Liverpool, because I think they win the league the year before that with you guys, or 1990. So they're in a similar boat to you, where you've got this close, and then it's going to be possibly taken away. What does that make it mean even more that you just want to finish it? You don't want the asterisks?
Yeah, 100%. It's got to be. The season has to be finished. It just has to at the end of the day. Nobody wants to go up on a technicality. I think Liverpool's case is probably stronger because of the size of the gap between first and second. So I don't think anybody would have a problem if you were to turn around and say, well, look, we're going to crown Liverpool champions because they were going to win it anyway.
But I think most of the Premier League would probably argue against that. Just
yeah, there was
the rivalry.
That's it. And then of course you've got how do you decide who goes down as well from the Premier League?
I think that's more of a bigger argument, because you get relegated from the Premier League, you get the sort of the packages that they refer to, but not easy to get back up. When did you get relegated? 2004, was it?
2004, yeah. Long time ago.
And then you think about the big teams back then. Obviously, they've come back up now, but Southampton and Villa. And then you had Nottingham Forest that went down before you guys, Bradford, Leeds, Portsmouth. There's so many teams that have struggled to get back up, or even they've kept on going further. Like Bradford, they went all the way to League Two.
You've got to remember as well, this happened to Manchester City. That they went as far down as maybe League Two, I think. And then they started their march on up, and they attracted an investor, and the rest is history. So, there's no such thing as a closed door, I don't think. But there's some sides that are so in danger of, slipping down that fat. Big clubs that look like Sunderland. You mentioned them earlier on. Massive club, massive stadium, massive fan base. And Leeds as well. Down in League One, when you're travelling to places like Crewe and. That you go into places that have got like an 8,000, 9,000 capacity, and Leeds are taking 4,000 fans. It's, that's the one thing about the club that I love, and I absolutely love, is the fan base. They are so loud. so passionate, so they all take the piss. They're, like I said, boiling piss since 1919. That's every Leeds fan. They've got a sense of humour, but at the end of the day, they're football fans, and what they want is they want to see effort. They want to see commitment. They want to see you don't want to see you running for 90 minutes. If you run for 90 minutes, you might have had a shocking game, but if you run and run and run for 90 minutes and you keep putting your foot in there, they'll still clap you off the pitch. They'll still applaud you because you've put the effort in, because you deserve to wear the shirt. It's when players might start to get a bit lazy, that's when fans start getting on the back and it all gets a bit naughty. Football fans can be very fickle. As we well know, all it takes is a goal to turn it all around. But, the fans, I do miss them. I miss them a lot, and they're a good, friendly group of fans as well.
So I've just decided now to share this bit because I want to test your Leeds trivia, which I mentioned before.
Oof.
So we don't find the answers out to the end, but I guess it could get interesting for you. So you can read them, but I'm going to read them out anyway, just for the people that listen to the audio side of this. So some Leeds trivia, there'll be 15 questions. So let me get the video up 1 second. So it's your video, right? Okay. So number one, Leeds United turned professional in 1920, but in fact came into existence in 1904. What was their original name? So Leeds Albion, Leeds Celtic, Leeds City, or Leeds Wanderers. Which one was it, Lee?
I believe it was. Do you know, my first thought was Leeds Albion, but I'm going to go Leeds City.
Leeds City. Okay. In 1974, the official colours of the home strip became A, all white with blue trim, B, all white with blue and yellow, with yellow and blue trim, C, all white with yellow trim, or all white.
I think I know this one because the kit, believe it or not, used to be that awful colour that you're wearing. We actually used to play in red, and then Don Revie changed the kit because he wanted to mimic the mighty Real Madrid, so we went all white.
Okay. 3. Which one of these nicknames have Leeds United never been called?
United.
United, Peacocks, or the Whites?
United.
I wonder why.
Oh, you need to click on that one.
Leeds United have suffered a number of relegation battles and have won some and lost some. During the 7 decades between the 1920s and 1980s, how many times have Leeds United relegated from the top flight? 5, 3, 4, or 6?
Relegated from the top flight. 3.
Question 5. From their information in 1920 until the birth of the Premier League in 1992, how many times have Leeds United crowned champions of England? 3, 1, 2, or 4?
Oh my God, this is so bad if any of my mates see this. 3.
6. How many times did Leeds United win the FA Cup during the 7 decades between 1920s and 1980s? 1, 2, never, or 3?
Once.
Jack Charlton set the club record for appearances when he retired in 1973. True or false?
True.
Leeds United recorded 98 goals in one season. In which season did they achieve this fastest? 67, 68, 27, 28, 70, 71, or 73, 74?
Oh, do you know what?
Hard on this.
This is, we had a player who scored like 54 goals in a season.
Wow.
I'm going to go 67, 68.
It's a long worded one. The death of the Leeds United legend John Charles in 2003 was one of the saddest days for the club. He had set a goal scoring record for the club which had not been surpassed in his lifetime. In 1953-1954, John the Gentle Giant Charles scored how many Football League goals for Leeds United? 38, 42, 39 or 49?
This is what I just mentioned.
All right, okay.
Wow. I'm pretty sure it's 49.
The Football League Division 1, Leeds United set a record of 29 matches undefeated from start of a season. In which season did Leeds achieve this amazing feat? 92, 74, 65 or 69?
91, 92.
Rio Ferdinand was at the time Leeds United's biggest transfer buy and sale. True or false?
True.
Yeah. Final 4. In 1971, which player became the first Leeds United Player of the Year? Lorime, if I pronounce that right, Hunter, Charlton or Clark?
Norman Hunter.
In a poll carried out by Leeds United before the 03-04 season, which player was voted the greatest ever player to play for the club? John Charles, Gordon Strachan, Jack Charlton, or Billy Bremner?
Billy Bremner.
Even I know all them. What was Leeds United's record score for a football win prior to the formation of the FA Premier League in 1992? 10-0, 8-0, 9-0, or 11-0?
I think it's 11. Southampton, possibly.
Wow, that's something to look into after this. Last question. Thanks for doing these. The record gate receipt for a game at Ellen Road during the 1980s and 1990s did not include Leeds United in the fixture. Which two games gave Leeds United their club record receipts? United City, Newcastle Preston, Liverpool Everton, or Tottenham Everton?
For some reason, I think it's Spurs Everton.
So let's submit the answers.
Oh, God.
Oh. So, first one you got right. Second one wrong.
Oh,
The Real Madrid answer was brilliant as well. Oh, so they're saying Lily Whites, but I know you as that.
I don't know. Preston, a nickname, is it Lily Whites?
Oh, is it?
I've never referred to Leeds as just United.
I just found this on Google, so Leeds United get back on. It's called funtrivia.com. Blame them. The relegation, you said 3, it's 5.
I think that was more in hope than expectation.
Yeah. You got the answer of 3, which you was worried about, so that's good. How many FA Cups? 1. Perfect.
Yep. That was a centenary FA Cup final.
Ah, nice. So Jack Charlton played 29 times, so you got that one right. This one was a hard one, 98 goals. Nearly 100 years ago. Why would you know that?
Oh my God, I've done awful with them.
I feel like you would have said 42 second anyway. 91, 92,
73, 74.
Obviously, we knew 3-0 was true. Norman Hunter, you were confident about that. Billy Bremner, you were confident about that. 11-0, so 8-0 against Leicester, 1934. Again, not in your generation. And then perfect Tottenham Everton. That's a great one, that.
Yeah. So, yeah. Do you know what? Just on that note about Norman Hunter becoming the first player of the year there, and obviously we lost Norman Hunter just a couple of weeks ago. He sadly passed away from COVID-19. So I, on a personal note, got to wish, just say all the thoughts are with his friends and his family. This is an awful thing to be going through, especially at this time. And another Leeds United legend, Trevor Cherry, who sadly passed away only a few days ago. So, yeah, it's as if it's not tough enough at this particular moment in time when we can't even give these legends the proper send-off that they deserve. Yeah. That's, especially when you see these guys on a weekend as well and to talk to, it's sad, very sad. And what a player he was as well.
Yeah.
Just ever so quickly, there was a story about Norman Hunter. They were playing Manchester United, and the team bus had pulled up at Ellen Road, and Norman Hunter got onto the coach with a piece of paper with a note, and he gave it to Dennis Law, and then he got back off the coach and walked in, and the lads had said to him, "What have you just given him?" He'd just given him the menu for Leeds General Infirmary.
Wow.
He gave him it prior to the game. They said, "I'll see you out on the pitch." I was like, "Oh, lad."
Amazing. That would mess with your head a little bit.
Yeah. And that carried on apparently because Dennis Law never used to wear shin pads. It was a bit of a well-known thing, and he just didn't used to wear them. And when England played Scotland at Wembley, they were lining up to come out in the tunnel, and Norman Hunter had lined up for England in defence, and Dennis Law had put his shin pads on.
1966, wasn't it?
You what?
He was in 1966.
He was part of the cup-winning squad. Yeah, he was.
Crazy. Simon, have you got the questions up from Facebook? We've all got a handful. I don't want me to read them out.
I didn't see any. I didn't get any of the notifications through for the.
There's 2 or 3. I put it on late, so blame me on that. So I'll start with, I think it's one of your friends, Jamie JP.
Oh, yeah.
Just done a funny one. So if a tree falls in the woods and you try to hear it, does it make a sound?
Is fuck off Jamie a good answer?
Yeah. We're a podcast, not radio, so we don't need the bleep.
James, a friend of mine who lives in Leicester. I met him overseas actually. He's a DJ and an ex-squaddy as well. He's a sound lad, is Jamie. Love him to pieces. My answer would be, who knows?
So, my missus Catherine has put a question on for you. So, you've answered it already, but if you've got a different answer for her, who is your favourite person that you've interviewed on the radio? So, someone, it could be anyone.
There's been that many, and I don't mean that in a sort of big, in a blow me on trumpet or anything, but there has been that many from singers in bands and actors and oh gosh, a memorable one. Olympic athletes. I've interviewed quite a few. Chris Hoy, I've interviewed. Nice. That was good fun. There was a singer. Do you remember a band called? They were around a while ago. I used to have a crush on the lead singer, and I got to interview her. Do you remember a band called Republica?
I don't.
They did a track called "Ready to Go."
Republica.
Yeah. Shout it from the rooftop, shout it out. Baby,
I'm ready
to go. That one. Right. So the lead singer of that band was a woman called Saffron with sort of red hair down the way. And I had a bit of a crush on her. And I got to interview her on air and I was a bit like, hi, Saffron. Which was pretty cool. Raymond van Barneveld, darts player.
Yes, RVB.
He was really cool to interview. I've interviewed a lot of darts players actually through doing the sport radio. Which was cool. AP McCoy, interviewed him, which was cool. A friend of mine interviewed the Doc Brown from Back to the Future.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a decent one. That's a very good one for that.
Another funny one, but I'll ask it because he's gone to the effort of asking it. What do you like best about Aaron Woodward?
Do you know what? I love Aaron. I think he's a great lad. I think the reason I like Aaron is because he says it as it is, and he was quite open and honest. He openly admitted a little while back that he wasn't going through the best of times, and he kind of reached out a little bit, and I dropped him a line as well. I know a lot of other people did, and he really seemed to appreciate that. Anybody who can put it out there and just say, you know what, I'm not doing my best at the moment. This is me, and make of that what you will. Hats off to him. Absolute hats off to him. It's a shame that he's not involved in the show at the moment. I appreciate he's got other things that he's committed to now. But yeah, whenever I've worked with him, he was very professional, good sense of humour, and really polite as well. Really polite. Calls you sir. You know that? Calls me sir every time. Yeah. I want more people to do that, in fact.
Leigh Nicholson.
But yeah, he's a lovely, lovely guy, and I hope he's doing well. And I saw some bastards robbed him not so long ago.
Yeah, especially in this day and age.
Oh, do you know what I mean? I bet he'd love to get his hands on him.
I know,
yeah. But he's a good man.
One question I've literally just thought of, and I thought it's quite a funny one. Have you ever interviewed Chris Miles?
No.
Have you ever met him?
I've spoke to him on the phone though.
Right.
We were out again. It was another football thing, and somebody is friends with him, and they just phoned him, or he phoned them for some reason, and I ended up being put onto the phone. And I had just, what did he say now? He basically swore at me. Can't remember who we were out with now, but we ended up picking up the phone, and they just went, "Oh, it's Chris Miles." And then sort of put the phone on it, and he went, "Oh, are you out with so and so?" And I said, "Yeah." And then he said, "Well, do me a favour. Something about getting him. Don't get him pissed or something. He's a lightweight and something or other." And it was just a really random conversation. I'm babbling there, but yeah, I've had a very brief conversation with him.
Amazing. We'll start to wrap up then. We could talk for hours. So much information there. We're going to do some quick fire questions at the end. Obviously, the quiz is just extra because Leeds and stuff like that.
Right.
Have you got yours up, Simon?
Got mine ready, yeah.
Simon, right. Start us off.
Start off with your MMA sort of fandom. Are you Pride or UFC?
UFC.
Sweet. I'll mix up a little bit. So, ketchup or brown sauce?
Brown sauce.
Si?
GSP or silver?
GSP.
Nice. City break or beach holiday?
Oh, God, I don't like beaches, I'm going to be honest with you. I'll go, if there were a swimming pool, I'll go city break. Yeah.
Nice. Si?
Family Guy or Simpsons?
Simpsons. Yeah.
When you eat, do you have your fork in your left hand or your right hand?
Left.
Good lad. Simon?
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Nice. When you're watching the fights, a submission or a KO?
KO.
Nice. What spice do you go for at Nando's?
It's got to be extra hot, mate. Go big or go home.
I guess this ties in really. Go big or go home. Do you prefer to watch a war or a quick finish?
I do like a good war.
Yeah.
Do like a good war. Bit of a trick one with a knockout and the submission, because I do like a real good technical submission as well.
I guess that's something you learn more when you're so close to it, and you're like, I've watched these guys before. I know sort of what their signature is.
Some of them, I've got. I mean, I have to stop. I have to ask the ref when I get in there. I'll have to ask CAF, because some of the finishes now that these boys, and the girls that are putting on their opponents, they're coming out with something. And you think, where are they learning this? No, how is that even possible? Yeah, it's the skills that some of these kids have got coming through.
Yeah, it's great watching that. The up and coming shows and the amateur ranks coming through now.
Totally. And the experiment, the way that they're experimenting with things now and implementing different sort of little elements of different styles, and just to make themselves unpredictable. There's that many more unpredictable fighters now, I think, that are just, these fighters that are switching stance so quickly and switching levels, and you just don't know what you're going to get from them. And yeah, I like that.
Any more questions, Si?
One last one. It's probably the most important one as well.
Go on.
What sauce do you have in your bacon butty?
Brown. Brown HP. Or if I'm feeling particularly
no, that is.
no, Daddy. I'll tell you what, have you had that burger sauce?
Yes.
Was that one?
Yeah,
It's
sauce.
an extra range like Asda and Tesco, Morrison and stuff like that. It's quite nice.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. Well, I've practically living on barbecue food for the last month because the weather's been quite nice. So, yeah, my kids now, I'm like, should we fight barbecue? I'm like, no, Dad. No.
It's now not a thing to look forward to. It's kind of like,
no, yeah, absolutely. When you're pissed at 10 o'clock at night like that, try to cook a sausage out in garden. Good fun.
We'll just quickly touch on what you've been doing to keep sane in the lockdown. Obviously, you still work and doing the radio stuff. Is there anything you've been doing to keep sane? Busy?
The darts that we mentioned earlier on, really enjoying having the dartboard back up. That's great. To be honest, I've become a bit of a kick-ass house husband. I'm pretty good. So I found, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not really a massively house-proud kind of bloke. I like things to be tidy, but not to a degree where it becomes almost an obsession. But now I'm basically like following my kids around for the last 5 weeks, just cleaning up after them. And I've become really cocky with it and all. So, like, if like, I don't know, like my daughter will leave something in the living room and I'll be like, really? Is this a new place where we're keeping shoes now? And she'll be like, well, what do you mean? So do it just there in front of the TV, just sort of sticking out next to the fireplace. Is that where we keep them? No. Oh, we're going to move them? Sorry, Dad. Yeah, like I'm proper having things I can't have a go at my missus for doing it though, because my wife, she's an NHS key worker, so she's there, she's on the front line every day. So when she comes home from work and she just wants to put her shoes down or leave a cup out or something like that, I can't turn around and go, excuse me, what? You know what I mean? Get that shit.
Clean up all day.
Yeah. So I've got to be a bit careful with that. Just doing a little bit, playing with kids, trying to keep a bit of structure with them, not too rigid, obviously. So I don't think I don't want to do that to them. I don't want to pin them down to that. We still have bits and pieces that they're doing. They're still reading. They're still doing a bit of maths work. Still doing. The brains are not going to be completely turned to mush by the time all this is done. But yeah, I've almost sort of gotten to know my kids again, which is
nice.
You're spending all day with them now. So what we're going to have for lunch, what do we like? I'm normally out. You know, they're having a packed lunch at school. You know, what we having? What do you like to do? You know, it's been a challenge. Its own unique set of challenges. But it's been all right so far.
So obviously, no one we are fighters or anything like that, but we'll still ask the same to you. Is there anyone you would like to thank or anyone like that? Have you got anyone that sponsors you? Have you got anyone that anyone that helps you? Anything like that you want to thank?
I think first and foremost, I think all of you guys at UKFC for keeping on, putting up with me and inviting me back time after time. I absolutely love doing what I do, and the shows that you put on are incredibly good. And you've highlighted, you've unearthed some absolute gems in terms of fighters that are coming through. So, and the guys over at Almighty as well, which is where it all started. So, massive thanks to them. And all the guys, obviously, at Leeds United, and just people that are keeping on coming to support, you know, amateur MMA shows and new MMA shows, because you know, without those people that are dipping it in the pockets and spending a couple of quid on tickets and buying drinks when we get there, we wouldn't be able to keep doing what it is that we're doing, and meeting some of these new fighters that are coming through, and you know, seeing them hopefully take that next step, and you know, before you know it, we, you know, the likes of your George Smiths and people like that that are really making some noise, and you know, I'm there watching him on the very first Almighty or second Almighty, and you know, now he's on Cage Warriors and doing pretty well for himself and making a name. Arnold Allen as well, you know, I love it.
Yes.
What a great little fighter. And what's his name? Paddy Pimblett. Saw him in Liverpool not so long ago. Paddy Pimblett, Molly McCann, and Darren Till turned up to the show in Liverpool, this Almighty show that we'd done, and just have them sat there. You were like,
Venom Page was there as well. You took a picture of him. Venom Page was at that one.
Yeah, MVP was there. That was that one. That was one in Liverpool as well. So, and that's good to see as well. It's good to see these fighters that are really making a name for themselves now, still wanting to come out and check out the sort of amateur talent and the talent that's coming through as well. So, if they're willing to lend their support to these shows, then everyone else should as well.
Amazing. Thank you for your time. It's been our longest podcast, so I feel like we've gone for hours. I've enjoyed this one. Simon, anything before you want to ask Leigh before we go, or anything like that?
No, just thank you. It's been great listening to like your stories and just your knowledge and that you've accumulated over the years. It's been great to listen to it, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, from music to football to MMA to everything in between.
Yeah, we have absolutely everything in between. It's been awesome, lads. Thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
No worries. Thanks for listening, everyone. Hit us up. Leigh, you're on Twitter, aren't you? So you're on Instagram. How can people follow you?
Just search Big Leigh on Instagram, or at Leigh Nicholson, Leigh, on Twitter or on Insta, and you'll find me there.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.